this is Dave's. This was quite a while. Yeah.
He thought he did the county, he just didn't do it 3 months.
That was before my time. I remember something about it. It's good.
Need him.
You got the recorder ready?
I do. It's at stop.
You ready?
You got a minute.
Yeah, that was slow. All right, we'll call the council meeting for October 12th, 2021, 4 o'clock p.m. Call to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first order of business, minutes from September 28th, 2021. Is there anything that needs to be added, deleted, changed? Now's the time to speak. If there's no corrections, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I make a motion to accept the September 28th, 2021 minutes as presented.
All second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay, reports. Kurt, fire department, please.
Now we moved it over there, it's green.
It's confusing.
Awesome.
Okay, now which way do I face?
You face the camera. Now you can face everybody.
Okay, my report's about the same. I want to thank my guys for new and old, for being part of the fire department. We've had 3 medical calls in the last month. We had 2 ground fire calls on Sunday. Trucks are winterized. I want to thank Jim for painting fire hydrants. Training went real well. We had training with Powder River this last training period, basically linking our equipment to their equipment. All went real good. We pretty much knew they would link together, but we're going to actually start training a lot more with them. I got kind of a note scribbled down here. Oh, so I guess the big thing, after the 18th, we lose our EMS in Sumter. So basically from the Idaho border to Hood River, there's no more EMS or transport because Baker's done, they're quitting.
That got voted, sir. Yeah.
So far,
We still have air.
so they're letting me know if air's gonna go or not. It's a power play. If they can shut the air, if basically they can get enough people, because I kind of said, I want to give all the service I can still. But I don't want to be the only one in District 13 doing it, because then I'm going to get, if we have enough horsepower behind legislation, they may just say, okay, we got to have EMS service, guys, so go ahead and do it. It's a $500 fine to the individual if they show up on a call and there's a patient and they have anything to do with the patient, $500 fine to the individual. So there's 2 of us that are EMS that are vaccinated and can handle the call. At that point, yeah, we can quit the blood from gushing and that kind of stuff, but nobody's coming to transport. So The majority of the fire departments in District 13, which is all of Baker County and most of Union County, are going, they're fire department only until something can be worked out. You know, it's just going to be a temporary thing. I mean, you can't do away with EMS. And they, you know, it's just in case, you know, Kate Brown and the state.
So legally, you guys can't do anything. Baker can't do anything.
Baker, basically, they took their pink slips, the paramedics there.
Okay, so.
So I
Yeah,
no
well,
sense me doing anything
No,
if it requires transport.
For the people in town, for their knowledge, if we got if they have a family member or friend that's got an issue, throw them in a rig.
They, private transport, yes. They'll have to transport themselves. Now, I will respond to the best that I can and get them ready for transport. But like I say, I don't want to be the only one and be the black sheep when they're basically, they're just trying to prove, you know, if nobody's doing it and if more people are having issues with it than they are COVID, then maybe somebody will realize that, yeah, that wasn't a very good plan.
So and then this is a result of
October 18th mandate, vaccination mandate.
Who calls their life?
Baker Paramed, no, Baker tones them out, yeah. And at this point, last conversation with Air Life, they were going to do the same as the rest of the county.
Which is what?
No transport, no Air Life.
So if we paid for it, we're just screwed.
When was the last time you talked to those guys?
Sean, I talked to Sean at Baker City.
Right.
It's been about since I talked to Gary, it's been 3 weeks on Air Life. At that point, he said he had no idea if they were going to stay because it was brought up at a meeting. And do you know some things?
I was talking to one of the paramedics, it sounds like all but one have filed for exemptions. We went ahead and let the exemption around.
Oh, okay, very good.
Don't take that on gospel truth, but that's what I was told.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. I just heard actually today from the Idaho border to Hood River, there was nothing.
And what I don't want to do is I don't want to say, I don't want to undermine if they're trying to take a position or something like that.
Well, that's it. It's just being a position taking, like Rob said. It's, you know, they shouldn't even be asked to do what they're gonna be slapped on the wrist or something for doing their job in a way. They know the circumstance and the risk, and they've been dealing with it already for a year and a half, so it's just that type of deal.
So even if you're in Baker, you don't get transport, right?
So it sounds like maybe some of them, yes.
As a county, though, abandoned transport up here, aside from what's happening within Baker proper.
Baker would be treated the same as us. If they all walk off, then they're just a fire station also.
Okay, but I'm assuming, if you're correct, and if Baker's still in the transport business, are they transporting in Baker proper, and if so?
No, I don't know for them. We've just been warned that, my guess is they're not so it's just, if they're not transporting for us, they're probably not transporting there either.
Well, I know there was a move afoot last spring for Baker to quit doing anything for the outlying areas.
Yeah.
Regardless of any mandates.
Right, and I think that COVID threw a dog leg and all that, settled or anything.
That was actually a vote.
No,
That is still underfoot.
yeah.
It's still in play.
That was money.
And I think it just, with offices being shut down and stuff like that, it just got put in a file somewhere and dealt with later. And then Years ago, we had a traffic, I remember a traffic counter out there on the street. Oh, hell, it's probably been 10 years ago. But I'd sure like to see another one go up. And because we have more and more toneouts and calls and more citizens and activity in Sumter, whatever the difference between the traffic counter now and then was, I would like to increase in my budget because it costs us, we have more calls, cost more to take care of them. Town's a lot busier than it was. I don't know the population 10 years ago, exact count. 180, 190, and now we're 220 something. But
So at the counter of the main road.
the counter was about at the park, I think, the park building, Garrett's office.
Oh,
Yeah, they have one there, one going into the park.
Yeah. And sign board is such a cool thing that, about a year before COVID, we talked about getting one. I had access to one, it just needed batteries. So if there's still some kicking around, let's get one for the other end of town. Because this weekend I got bitched out because somebody went by the sign, they must have been driving too fast. They said there's nothing about ground fires or burn barrels. They go, oh no, I was reading a whole book when I went by. Well, that's not the case. If they would have slowed down to the speed limit, they should have been able to read it. But if there was a way to get one for the other end of town, it'd be real good because then when we needed them both in one spot, you could read one and it'd deal with like what's on there, the city's water rationing and that. Then they come to the fire one, they can see no ground fires, no burn barrels. Big thing, spaghetti feed's coming up September 26th. Hopefully, I want to reserve, we may have reserved the building already. We talked about it. October 26th. And health department said we can go back into sitting down. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have another sit down meal. Just basically like a regular restaurant, you gotta wear a mask in the building until you're seated and then you're good. And I think that was it. So I think I'm done.
Are you gonna do takeouts too, Kurt?
I don't know for sure. It's just depending on, so with the reader board, it'd be really nice if it was sat up down there and it said, if you want takeout, flash your lights and be on this side of the street so that people would know what to do. We're working through that right now. The takeout worked really well last year. Actually was our most profitable year because we just had to-go containers instead of all the, stuff that we had inside. Plus, it took a lot more personnel to seat them because you were filling water pitchers and cleaning up trays and stuff. But I don't want to overwork my crew. If I got stuff going inside and outside, that's a lot. So we haven't quite decided on the outside yet. There will be to-go meals. You can come in and get, we will dish it to go. And then.
Planning, John.
You got radio stuff from Chris. I have copies of my little report. Anybody want one?
Sure, I'll take one.
Stuff. Pen and paper.
thanks, John.
One here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We had to have a special meeting with the loss of John. But we took care of it last night. Harry Pilcher wants to build a snow shed. This is in the IR zone, and basically under section 6.1 says any use up there. We are recommending approval with the condition that the water and the sewer hookups comply with the city ordinance. Robert Blum wanted an address on his dad's place. I did some driving around yesterday, and he is fairly near halfway between the addresses, the known addresses that are the trading post and up there at the RV park. And so we're recommending 624 South Mill Street. That's our recommendation. Dave DeRoost, he wants to build a storage building. I just got some new information. We had tabled that because we didn't have a diagram showing backs or height of the building. Maybe height of the building was on there. It says height 14 feet. I don't know if that's the doors or the total height. And then he also wanted an address. I just had a moment to look at the engineer drawings that I think most of you got. I still don't see anything on the setbacks. So if council wants to go ahead and approve that so he can get the plans in, I would recommend that you approve it with the condition that he turns in his setbacks and height of the building, the information we actually need so we can process it. If anybody can find it on there, I didn't see it.
I think the building's 14 foot 8 inches.
Right.
Well, and that's, I've got height of 14 application, width and length of 100. Is that the door height, Charlie, or is that the total height of the building?
That's the way that it's built like this, maybe from here to the.
Okay, all right, if you're happy with that.
He's 35 feet from Granite Street.
Yep, so, and he must own most of those lots down in there. So as long as he's away from the unconstructed Granite Street, you guys need to take a look at that. The last application was from Mr. Martinez and Ms. Hogston. It's another snow shed, snow shelter. We are recommending approval with the condition that the water and sewer hookups are by the ordinance. Now, I have a couple of comments. Snow shelters are an accessory building like a garage, question mark. I've mentioned this before. In our zoning ordinance, we have nothing that says we can put accessory buildings alongside of a home on the lot. We have the 40% rule, but we have no reference to accessory buildings other than in the definitions. It does say accessory buildings there, but none of the zones mention, hey, you can put an accessory building as defined in your definitions. So it's something we have to work on. And the other thing is the rumors, and we can't operate by rumors any more than you can, are that both of these snow sheds will be lived under this winter. And if they are, I think we need to let those people know before they construct that they're going to have to go after a conditional use permit. Now, up in the IR zone, the ordinance says any use. It's not specific at all. Do whatever you want to do. In the R zone, recreation vehicles are allowed. There are some conditions of permanent. We don't have a definition of that. So that's some of the things that, as we get back to work on the zoning ordinance, I'd like to clear up, make it clear for future uses. So
you're saying we should approve these even though they're not allowed under the ordinance?
Martin, what I'm saying is there are snow sheds. We don't ask what they're being used for. And which means they are an allowed use. We can make them use, we can let them do it. We've got tons of them in the city right now. Got a big precedent. My concern is if the rumors are correct and they are going to put an RV under there, RVs are allowed, but if they're gonna live in them permanently, but they do need a conditional use permit, there's a lot of gray area in this thing.
RVs are allowed for seasonal use and they can't live in them full-time, they can come and go,
Well,
but they can't live in them full-time.
but we don't ask that, and on the application, all we know is that they're wanting to build a snow shed. That's it. So the approval of the snow shed meets all the criteria of the ordinance. We recommend approval. It's the other uses that are not clearly defined that I'm trying to bring up, put it that way.
And garages are specifically mentioned in 4.200, that's the only place on that.
Accessory use. So,
All right,
yeah.
So if we would, hypothetically, if we approve the snow shed, it would be under, we would have to know what conditions they were going to use it for. Because in other words, if they're putting a trailer on it, if they're going to live in it full time, can't do it. So
Well,
therefore, we're not going to approve the application.
well, I guess my concern is, they should be warned before they build that, you know, if they're gonna go spend that kind of money, especially today with the cost of everything, there should be a warning that if you are going to live in it permanently, there's an ordinance against it. If it's gonna be seasonal use, what is seasonal? We think summer, but seasonal is also winter. They're gonna winter up here and then leave in the summer? And we don't ask those kind of questions.
Well, what happens then is they build the snow rough, then they come in here and they say we want a conditional use permit for the RV, and we feel sorry for them because they've expended all this money, and so we approve it.
That's up to you.
That's
I'm merely bringing the point up.
I understand that, John. It's bootstrapping into the whole thing.
Well, they should be aware that they have to come in and get a conditional use and they
Yeah.
can't live in it full-time.
That's
Before
my
they
point
do
is,
this.
before they spend this money, they should be alerted to the ordinance of what they can and cannot do, and what they have to do to be able to put something under it.
And we need to rectify that one that's already been built that we approved, that I thought was only gonna be seasonal, but it appears they're gonna leave their trailer.
Which
underneath
one's
it.
that?
The one up on Cracker.
Across from Shores?
Yeah, appears their trailer's there
Mhm.
full-time for the winter, so we just need to rectify it and send them a letter and tell them it's a conditional use and seasonal.
now that we're
That
going
would make the Merit garage also a conditional use. It's under 4.20 as long as it meets 5.840, and that is a conditional use article 10.
For his workshop.
Yeah, because he applied for a garage.
If it's gonna be used to store the RV, there should be no issue. But the issue is, are they going to live in it? Is it seasonal? Is it, I'm gonna live in it forever? Well, the ordinance doesn't allow you to live in it forever. It allows seasonal use, but what is seasonal? Winter time or summertime?
Well, and also, I mean, if it's a stationary, even though it's a trailer, it's on wheels, if it's stationary, we have a conditional use permit for that.
And recreation vehicles are allowed, okay? Now, when you get to the section on mobile homes, well, an RV is not a mobile home. We're not talking about a manufactured building or a mobile home that is going to be there permanently for a living structure or long-term, let's put it that way, because there's provision in the ordinance to remove a mobile home. What do you have to do if you remove it? And as we get back into working on the ordinance, these are things I'm going to try and tackle and make recommendations on.
As we go through the growth and ideas of most new people that are coming in, their ideas of what they'd like to do and in their mind is okay, is stepping outside what we've had to deal with before. And so we're finding these holes that, and you're correct, we need to address them. So
And there's
people-
tons of these type of things in the ordinance. In the R zone, anybody want to run a truck farm? It's allowed.
So, well, that's just something we need to
Yeah.
start working on. I
Something
know
I'll be
Linda and
working
I are
on
working
too,
on it
so
too.
I wanna
Just
start working on
bring
it,
some
so
more
as
stuff.
soon as I can get a crew back together.
Well, these people should be aware that.
We'll have to follow through on that.
Yeah, let them know what's going on.
Before they start building.
That's
Any
what
other
I'm working
questions for John? From these? Thanks,
I'll
John.
note that there won't be any second meeting of planning this month, with only 3 of us now, and I'm gone. But we'll be back first of November. We'll be back on.
Thank you.
Yep.
Right, discussion on any particular submittal.
I think we ought to approve the roofs.
Yeah, his setback, I helped him stake that out, we're 30 feet, 35 feet from the back of the building, from Granite Street. He does own all that property down there. He's got it all staked out, if anybody wants to go down and look at it. And he needs an address. For the county.
You don't have one now?
Well, he does. It's 0 Magnolia Street. Probably just dumping that up just so you can get his first building.
There's one Magnolia Street.
The reason they have, the reason they have that is because they're just running, they use it for their storage of their outdoor equipment. So it's not, that's just a number that they came up with to be able to run their outdoor adventure program through DeRuth Storage. So it's not a legit address.
Oh, so you got a hold of them.
But there's but I think there's a motion on the table.
Yeah, let's work on the address, because we've got it bracketed, okay?
Yeah.
We just need to get a little more information, and because like Renee is on holiday, which is the right thing, I couldn't get a couple of things, so
Well,
we'll keep working on that.
his access is on Magnolia, so, John, what was yours again?
409.
409. Being that that's an adjacent block, but on the other side, it would be an even number.
We have an address on the existing,
No,
that's what
yeah,
that's what I was looking for, something there,
right.
because that gives us a pretty good guide.
Yeah, we know. So,
Doesn't that have to come in another application because we get a fee for it?
get an address?
Yeah?
Yep.
Is that?
$40.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Why not just approve it, get them an address, and send them a bill for the additional fee?
We could do that.
I mean, DeRusse isn't
I mean,
gonna stiff us.
He just wants to get it going, so.
What?
Is that a motion?
I already had a motion that we approve his.
Okay.
And I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye, all opposed. All right, Dave DeRusse is good. Hey, can we send him the application for the address?
That is the same thing.
It is?
Yes, it's a sign address.
It's just that we're just gonna send him a bill. Addition.
Where does it say seeking an address?
Storage, building, and a signed address.
Oh, he wrote that out. Okay. All right, so he's not aware there's a fee for that, I'm assuming.
I'm sure you'll tell him.
And I'm sure he needs an address before he can start building.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact,
So if you're 409,
the county, again, small town area, the county's already approved it. You need an address for the permit, so.
So how come we can't do a 409? Because he's on the same side of the street as John's.
No,
He's across.
we could do,
He's on that side.
we could do like a 408. No, it's on this side. Where's storage use?
storage is across the street.
That's where he's going for Penalties, right? It's on that side. You go down Sawmill, it's on that side.
No. Where Dave's.
Storage units are.
There, yeah.
They're
It's
all
off
here.
of-
Down there, dude.
Magnolia.
They're off
That's
there.
what you think about.
It's off of Magnolia. It's not off of,
No, you're right, it's off of Magnolia, so.
when you drive in Magnolia, he's to the left.
Right, it's not off of Mill Street, so it won't be a Mill Street address, it'll be a Magnolia address.
Right.
It needs to be an even number.
But it's on the left.
Which way does this building
Well,
No, John, well, if you
John's
look
on
at-
the right.
John's on the west.
I drive down Sawmill like this.
You're not
No,
going Sawmill.
No, I'm just saying, we're talking about John. You drive down Sawmill, he's on the left.
No.
Then you drive down here, you get on Magnolia, he's on the left.
Now, ships don't make me stop.
Oh,
Shop,
City shop.
yeah.
the city
He's on the
shop,
same street as West Coast.
but his shop's not, your shop is Magnolia?
Yeah.
Or Granite?
Magnolia.
It's Magnolia, but it faces Granite.
Right.
I got confused, okay.
So
go
he's
ahead.
409,
I'm
we
bad.
need to be,
I'm so sorry.
we need to
Point of order.
be, so
Can we do 410 or 408?
either or, I mean, there's nothing gonna accept storage units on that lot, so, future he's gonna build more,
So
so.
his first one, that's the existing one could be 408, and we can do the new one at 410.
No, that's all one lot.
All one lot, so
All
it
one
has to
lot.
be, so, 410.
410,
Yeah.
Who's moving?
I move it 410.
is there a motion?
I make.
And I'll second
Who made the motion, Marcia?
it.
What?
Linda, okay, Charlie seconds, all in favor of
Aye.
410? All right, all opposed. Passed unanimously. Address is 410. It's been approved.
We're gonna wait on these other two until we contact them about their snow roof and their criteria.
Well, the thing is, though, on Harry's, it can be either way.
Harry's is IR.
It's an IO.
Oh, okay.
So I make the motion that we pass Perry Preacher's snow roof.
And Robert Blum's address.
You want to do these separate motion or same
No,
motion?
just give them.
There's a motion on the table to approve Perry Pilcher's snow shed. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, all opposed? Great. Robert Bloom needs an address. It has been recommended, 640 South Mill Street. No, I'm sorry.
24.
No, right.
Make a motion to accept Robert Blum's application and address him 624 South Mill Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passed unanimously. Is there a motion on the Martinez snow shed?
My motion would be to notify the Martinez's and let them know that we're gonna leave that. We have an ordinance in effect that they would probably need to come in and get a conditional use before we approve it, before they spend money.
So the result would be to table it until.
Yes.
All right. Is there a second for that motion, or do you want to withdraw?
I'll second.
Okay, second motion to table Martinez with notification.
Are they only R or they are L?
R.
That says R.
They're not.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Pay the bills, huh?
I was gonna ask Renee if she would notify them.
Report.
All right, guys. I've been preaching to you guys that you have no money. But the last 2 months would indicate the opposite of that. Now, I wouldn't by any stretch call you guys rich. But in fact, I would advise you get to a balance of about $500,000 in the bank before you really consider spending beyond what you have to. But the very last line on this, you got $220,000 in the bank the last 2 months in a row. It should have been your lowest point of the year. Revenues exceed expenditures. This last month, we had $10,000, almost $10,000 come in related to water and sewer hookups. We also had franchise tax fees from OTEC come in at $8,800, and then the pot money of $20,030 came in last month as well. And then there was a little bit of money from Flea Market and some other things. So total collections in the month of September were $75,000, which is substantially higher than what we had going out. And you can see, again, on the last page, the cash balance changed by a positive $20,000, actually a positive $40,000 if you include LTMP between this month and last month. That said, so let's move on to expenses here. We've got CIS Trust. They did their annual workers' comp audit. Nothing exciting. They just said that we worked more hours than they had projected, so we had $2,400 related to that. And then we had some water repairs with Advanced Plumbing, Baker Sanitary, the $1,800 for the Flea Market toilets and dumpster. We continue to pay $5,000 a month on Buckley Law, and so we're down to a $19,000 balance. My bill's a little higher than normal. We got our 2018 audit out and required quite a bit of my assistance in getting that out. OTEC is $1,200. Seal Septic, we pumped 3 different septic tanks, one of which will be reimbursing the city. It's about $515 that we need that. And then John and Associates for $7,000 is for the 2018 audit, which has been filed with the Secretary of State. Any questions?
Are we gonna get a report on that audit? I mean, other than the written one, so you can highlight where we're weak and where we're strong.
That's generally not, generally the auditor would come and do that. That hasn't been offered. I'd be more than happy to go through it with that. I certainly present a lot of things.
Well, so I think somebody ought to do it, because I doubt if there's anybody at this table who's qualified to read those documents at their full import.
I'd be more than happy to present it, just knowing that I'm not the one who actually did the audit.
I'd appreciate that if the council wants to have a report.
Let's put it on for next month.
Okay. Is there a motion to authorize Gansel and County to put together a auditing report?
We don't put together, I'm just gonna walk you through the Hydrant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, report's done. I'm just gonna walk you through it.
Okay.
As part of an old presentation next time. There's no
All right.
additional charge.
Wonderful. Withdraw motion.
Okay.
And take it, whatever your cost is, take it off the bill we're paying now.
Well, that's why.
Yeah, these guys.
I'm gonna leave that, we're gonna let that one drop. Okay, if there's no questions on the bills, let's move on to the flea market cost analysis, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So last time I presented Memorial Day and Independence Day, those numbers have changed a little bit for 2 reasons. One is that I presented 3 items last time. 3 ways of calculating the best abatement. It was decided that we would take the $200 in fees that we got for the other 2 events off of the total and then divide by 3. And so we allocated the best abatement minus $200 to each of the markets. That's the one we settled on. We also added Renee's labor. She gave me a report of the hours she spent there, and I put them in straight time for those hours. And so you can see we were just under $1,000 in profit on Memorial Day. you'll also notice Memorial Day will have the highest total revenue. It also had dramatically higher costs than the others. And there were some, I guess, lessons learned on how many porta potties, how much garbage and dumpsters and things like that. I think there's also some seasonality in that that's the first event of the year. You're going to see your labor costs are much higher on that one, and they kind of dwindle throughout the remainder. And the labor costs, remember, for the outside crew, I'm just taking the hours they charge to parks within the 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after for cleaning up and preparation, things like that. And overtime is included in those. Any overtime that actually occurred in that month is all charged to Flea Market. So you can see that. Independence Day, that's our big loser. I mean, it's less than half the revenue of any of the other two. And its costs were actually the lowest of any of them, yet we still couldn't turn a profit on that. So it's just something to food for thought on that one. And then the Labor Day Flea Market didn't quite reach the same levels of revenue as Memorial Day. But you can see the costs were much more in line with Independence Day and had much lower labor costs, even including Renee's labor. The guys didn't charge hardly any time to that event. So that's where you sit. We've got a little bit less than $1,000 of profit, a little over $2,000 loss, and not quite $4,000 profit from the day. What's that?
Showers.
Showers.
I took one this morning.
That's why the guys didn't have as much labor.
Oh, yes, thank you, Renee. I apologize. I'm just sitting over here being completely dense because I focus on this spreadsheet. Renee and I had this conversation. I said, well, what the heck? Why is the labor so much lower? It doesn't make any sense. Guys didn't have to clean the showers during Labor Day. And so, yeah, the showers were closed. And so you can see that alone saves you about $1,000 by just shutting off the showers. So again, you have lessons learned when you do an analysis like this. You say, hey, here's what we can do to limit costs. Here's what we can do to be cost effective. And then we just see which events actually produce the most revenue. So I think there's some value to breaking that out. Any questions?
No. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob. Not yet.
No, I just kept cruising right on through. Sorry.
He needs to get out of here.
Yeah, I know, it's good.
Would you rather walk out voluntarily, or should we make you out?
I make a motion that
It's over
we
there.
pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, bills are paid. Rob, do you want us to sign yours while you're still here?
Everything's signed up.
Oh, it is signed?
Yeah, everything's signed.
All right, cool. All right. So in summary, in years past, and the way things were done, bookkeeping wise and keeping track of things and so forth, it's been a huge question mark. Where we're making money, where we're losing money, how much either way, which individual events were profitable or loss. So one thing in line with what this council and the previous one's been trying to do is do analysis. What is the cost around the city? This was a huge one because this is part of the city's history, part of its identity, and not having a clue. Were we making money? Were we losing money? So Rob, thank you very much for taking the time to spell this out for us. So basically, this year we made $2,582 over the 3 events. That would go down by approximately $1,000 if we didn't have the COVID shutdown on the showers. So we'll have to deal with what's been identified here in the future concerning the individual events. See if we want to do some adaptations to these. So.
You have a question?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, I'd just like to point something out to council. In statistical analysis, this would be known as a skewed sample. because simply we have never had a year on the flea markets coming out of a complete shutdown. Never had that. The other thing is, we've never had a year where council took so much control of the flea markets, which was understandable with this COVID stuff, that nobody knew, are we gonna have a flea market? Even when council approved the Memorial Day flea market, it was skewed simply because if the government wants to shut it down, we have to shut it down.
Right.
So while these numbers are accurate, they are not reflective of past years.
That's true.
We've got to wait maybe 2 or 3 years to get out of this COVID thing again. And that gives us time to work on it. We've made a little money in this one, according to Rob, good deal. If we made money on this one, especially with July 4th, we all know what happened at July 4th. The heat just kept people at home everywhere. That really skewed things down. We also know what happened Memorial Day. They came out of the woodwork because the weather was beautiful. Weather really determines what happens on all of these flea markets. It really does. So just keep in mind with those numbers, the best thing you could do right now to start getting accurate numbers is take a vote and say, put the word out. Unless the government shuts us down, we are having flea markets. Let the vendors know, because they're already planning for next year. And if we can stop that rumor, well, we don't know if they're going to be or not, or be or not. Put those rumors to rest. We can build on this thing again. I got a couple of projects and ideas I'm working on to draw people in. Everybody does. We can do things. So keep that in mind as you look at these numbers.
That's a good point, John. This was not in any semblance similar to years past because of that issue. It's a good start to see where we're at. It's actually a good evaluation because we did have a lot of that interruption. So, but you're right. You've got to take an average over a period of time.
Yeah,
so,
I'm gonna, just a rough guess, over the 3 flea markets because of the situation with the COVID. We're probably down from 20 to 30 vendors that have been here. And for council's information, Labor Day, we had a gentleman up near the office. He booked himself and his 2 sons, 2 more booths for Memorial Day. He'll be back. And I think we all know the story about what happened Memorial Day and the food vendors running out of food the way they did. We're going to have more food vendors up there Memorial Day, just about guarantee that, because all of us food vendors, we made some pretty good money. I know we did the best we have ever done.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. How did you guys do compared to previous years?
Memorial Day, we did better gross and net than we have ever done in the hot dog stand, quote unquote. July 4th, we paid expenses because there wasn't anybody here. And Labor Day, we took what we had in inventory and we actually probably a third over normal as far as the hot dog stand is concerned. So you got to factor in because we had a carryover and you can carry it that long.
So you guys can fix that other pump truck out of those funds then, right? No? Let's hopeful.
That's what that $20,000 pot money is for.
Right.
To say that this statistically is not reflective this year because of COVID and the shutdown is fallacious because we never had decent numbers before, so we don't have anything to compare it to that's worth a darn as far as accounting goes.
That's true.
This is the first time.
I think
these numbers are skewed because of COVID. You cannot use these as a base to work in future years.
But it's all we have.
Statistically, you can take the expenses item by item and say, yes, we can work from that. But there's the total number. If you were doing this against a 10-year run, you cannot count these numbers because COVID, because we were coming out of it.
You know, we don't know what the future holds. Maybe an atomic attack, and maybe, you know, I mean, who knows, okay? These are legitimate numbers under these circumstances.
Item by item, yes, I agree.
Okay, so will we ever get back to normal? That's the question mark.
3 years.
So that's assuming it goes away.
Yeah, assuming.
But, yeah, so, you know, under the current and foreseeable future, these are legitimate numbers, but to be able to compare these, was what I think your point was, to the past, that's difficult to do.
Or
So
10 years from now, if you wanted to put these in with them, they'd have to throw them out because of COVID, what was going on. And that's why I'm recommending to council that fairly shortly make a decision. Let's get the word out. We are going to have the flea markets because that will run the numbers up. People can start planning.
And thanks for the suggestion, John. We will deal with that soon. So, all right. Next issue is the water management conservation plan. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Don't look at me like that.
I don't know how any other way to look at
It
it.
should have been in red. And I
The circle with the arrow probably wasn't good enough.
yeah, that's just my mind going in circles. So, we had employee evaluations recently. And the issue of, with evaluations, you know, you talk about raises and additional or less benefits. So the issue at hand before the council is a raise in the wages. They haven't had a raise since they've been hired in full-time in June of last year. So we're a year and 3 months past that. So we're going to deal with that issue now. Since I wasn't at that meeting, Linda, I'm going to ask you to.
Well, we did our evaluations and we discussed, at a previous council meeting, I don't think you were here, we voted to have raises up to $2.50 an hour. And so we did our evaluations and we discussed with the employees, the good and bad. And then we made recommendations to give Tim a $2.50 raise. $250. Jeff was a $2 and Renee was $2.50.
What?
Renee
$2.50?
was $2.50. $2.50, $2 and $2.50 is what we discussed.
We discussed it.
Yes, we discussed. And so then we're here to move forward on that.
So can we vote on each one of them?
And
Yeah, we'll do them separately. I want to make a point. When they were hired, I got a round head. Got a ridge, actually. That's in the front head. Yeah, pinhead. Not so much Renee, but Tim and Jeff, their substantial raise, which I consider this, was based upon them getting certified, water and sewer. One was going to get water, that was Jeff. Tim was going to get sewer. Now, to preface this, our employees did not get a cost of living raise when they should have at the year anniversary. That's on council. It wasn't addressed, it should have been. So that is coupled in with this discussion of the substantial raise. To date, Jeff Wells is not certified. Tim has taken his test once. He missed his qualifications by one question. is next. Try Addict is next week. Is that right?
This week,
This week.
Is this week?
Yeah.
50?
I think so, yeah, today's 12.
Oh. So he'll be trying again on Friday. To be technical, he's not certified. So to get this substantial raise is kind of a breach in what the agreement was when they were hired. Plus it is going on 4 months past the 12-month agreement. That does not negate that he is trying and he is getting certified. It's not like the boys were only working 30 hours a week and had time, you know, to specifically study for these tests. So, just in case anybody remembered that discussion when they were hired, I wanted to cover that. So, is there?
I'll make a motion that we give Tim Jacobson a $2.50 raise.
Second.
Oh, excuse me, I should have said retro back to the first of the month.
Second.
And then, I mean,
Just,
oh, yeah,
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. You want to explain that? I would be for it as soon as he's certified. So,
What'd you say?
So,
I would be-
any comment about the party wages or anything? I know you need to go, so.
Any comment, I've been requested just to stick around in case you may have any
Okay.
questions.
What did you just say, Greg?
I voted no
Okay.
on Tim, but it wasn't part of, I didn't make a motion to pay him once he gets certified. So, and because he's not certified, I don't agree to pay him back to the first of the month. So, I don't have to explain that, but I did.
Okay, and I would simply observe, we've made arrangements and set conditions before which this council has avoided and not followed. So it's easy.
Has nothing to do with this.
No, it doesn't, but it's
So,
the demeanor of the
moving
council.
on. Is there a motion on Jeff's raise?
I make a motion that we give Jeff Wells a $2 raise, retroactive back to the first of the month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passed unanimously. And Renee?
I make a motion that we give Renee a $2.50 raise.
I second.
Raise.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
You can go to your-
Okay.
Okay,
Don't forget more speeding tickets now.
Thank you, Rob.
thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Drive careful. Okay, wastewater management and conservation plan. Has any of the council members done any homework on this? So everybody's gonna know more about this than we
Well, we
do.
just got this in October 8th, so it's just something that's come in. And, it came from Eco. And they have checked to see if, are they checking still? Have you heard back from them? About if Business Oregon potentially might have funding for us to assist in completing this water. What they were hoping they could do is roll this into the water project funding all in one branch. Because it is a hefty bill.
Okay, so what's the requirements?
It says it meets state requirements, and it is an OR number. So it's just something that's coming down the pipe.
So if we don't roll it into the grant, then we have to pay for it out of our pocket. I mean, we're gonna have to pay for it one way or the other, I mean, at some point, but.
$19,300 for the engineering services.
And this is required mandated.
Yeah.
And I haven't had time, I haven't talked to him, I haven't talked to him a little more.
We
So I just haven't had time to really see what the details are, what this is gonna entail.
have been required to file these before. You know, we were in violation for multiple years, so
At this cost too, it's been expensive.
I don't know about the cost. But I've seen the letters that we were in evaluation, or violations, so.
So my question is, because we're still waiting on the last two audits, which holds up our grants, is this something that we can afford to roll into a grant? Or is this something that has to be dealt with right away?
Does it have a deadline?
The cover letter that came to, the WRD had mentioned a one-year deadline for this. So one year to go to in case the season is forward before the water company.
So we have a year deadline for
Well, we
each.
just
Well,
need
is
to
that-
look into it a little
Was that
closer.
from the task order when it was established?
I know, this came from HECO. For some reason, they sent it to us to make sure that we knew about it. Is that correct? Yeah. So we need to do a little more research on that before we get too deep in it.
All right, let's table this until we can get some more background, find out deadlines and.
Maybe Martin can look up this Martin OR number for us. I'll get it to you. You can figure out where that,
Sure, that's easy.
okay.
Okay, let's deal with this. There's some seminar and training about grants that Renee has submitted a form for the virtual training. The cost is $50. And fundraising and grant writing, and also networking. So, any discussion on that?
And then the fee is for all the classes, so it's just a one.
Yeah, you got the dates down here with those times.
Pretty cheap.
Well, I think it's worth the time to do it, and she's been willing to take a lot of classes and has already been looking into taking some other grant writing, I believe, classes. So I think she should sort of continue.
Now I make a motion to let Renee take the seminars and training.
The second.
I'll second it.
The second is all in favor. Aye. All opposed? All right. Passes. Going back to school, Carol.
She's in school all the time.
Okay, Christmas trees. Where are we gonna put the city Christmas tree?
I've looked around, we got to make it, because of the trains coming in, really most of it happens down there. I personally don't recommend putting it on private property. I know the biggest problem we had last year was the power line issue, but they've got too big of a tree. So you can cure that problem by having a smaller tree, they don't have to get in as high. I just don't want to put Cynthia in the position of paying the electricity, the extra insurance, and having it on private property. It is a city Christmas tree. And it was a good location and convenient.
Even if we got a bigger tree, can't we push it back some to get it away from the power line?
Yeah, you could do that, but the tree was really oversized. They cut quite a bit off. He just He just got the biggest tree he could find. He got a little carried away. But, and I know Cynthia was willing to do that, but still, I don't like putting her in that position. She's done it for many years. It's just, it's a city tree, and we have a nice place for it.
Marcia,
Yeah.
would you take a look at the front of the Wright House? Lynn and I, when we walked over the other day, and if I pull those fences down near Lynn Dean, there is an area that doesn't have two power lines. We can back away from the main power line, still get a reasonable sized tree in there, and it would be in the yard of the Wright House, and we could get a permanent tube put in the ground, like that over for the summertime. Might be a good spot. If you would take a look at that with me.
That wasn't brought up as an option
Yeah,
last time, so I
hadn't thought about it because I was thinking about pulling the fence down for the winter time so it doesn't, the snow doesn't get it wrecked up all over the place.
That's
So-
a solution too.
Why don't we plant a tree? Blue spruce or something that,
Anybody here gonna live long enough to see it grow?
oh, I'm gonna be 180, so.
But it sure good. I mean, a nice spruce would be nice.
I
It
know,
sure
they
started
grow
one
so
anyway.
slow.
I had talked to last year, I had talked to one of the nurseries and they suggested that they would find us a good sized tree and donate it. So I don't know if they're still open to that, but.
Let's check it out.
Yeah,
Better get to the one you did.
yeah.
That spruce tree, just for reference, that spruce tree in Joy Meyer's front yard,
Yeah.
Jerry brought home in a lunch pail
Really?
as a sapling. So,
Wow.
and that thing's one of the bigger trees in town.
They grow pretty slow.
Well, that one in our front yard that I finally cut down
It
didn't.
depends on the conditions.
I finally couldn't reach the top of it with Kurt's lip, so that's when it came down.
So we'll check, I'll go down and look at the Wright House too, and then we can check and see if we can get a donated tree or do that. So tabled, I guess.
The biggest hassle with the Christmas tree is finding the right tree.
Right.
If we could get the community every time they're out in the woods to take a look and say, hey, that's a perfect tree, because sometimes it's left to me and John, or like last year, Dave. I'm not gonna say that was the best tree we had up, but, you know, he took care of it and brought us a tree.
Okay.
They can be just pretty time consuming, because you can look at it and you go, oh, is everybody else gonna like it? So if there was a quad ride or something and people just go, hey, that was pretty decent.
When do you want the tree?
Oh, when do you want it?
Well,
We do it before.
should get it towards the end of November.
Okay.
And I've got a couple spotted that depending on how much snow, I don't know whether we can get to them or not. I've got a couple of nice ones on the right one now.
Okay.
So we can talk about that.
Yeah, that's another thing, the snow might have to.
Marcia, I should be over there working Saturday, so if you drop by, I'll give you my idea,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
And a permanent tube in the ground is awesome, because sometimes that ground's froze.
Yeah.
When I'm expecting to dig a hole, and it just don't always dig like that.
All right, thank you. Museum quarterly report. I know, Marcia, you've been working with Tony on that.
I have, and she's supplied me with all the information. I guess if you have a question on it, you can ask her. The savings grant account is from a grant that they had that was overpaid, so they kept that separate. They can use it if they have to, but it's like dipping into your 401k, they don't want it. I mean, it's there, so they just keep it separated. And the savings, and then of course the expenditures, she's documented down below was, you know, they do go through a lot of paper and for all of that. And so we're just checking it quarterly. And I believe you're getting ready for an open house, aren't you, Tony?
Yeah, we're gonna try and have, Thursday before 10. and before, the 20th.
Because she's done some moving around the exhibits and displaying them a little bit differently in there.
And we got two new things, the antique hose reel part, fire hose reel part. It's donated by someone documented in here itself. And then we got a wood model of the dredge.
Oh, that's right, the one from
Yeah, if
the,
you guys haven't seen either of those, you gotta stop by and look at those. Those are
Pretty
cool.
amazing.
Yeah.
We got Rob for doing work on the hose.
Rob Longenecker. Yeah. He doesn't live in town, he owns property in town, but he lives down in Fair Gulch Estates, but, no, I'm sorry, Elkhorn Estates.
yeah.
But he did a real nice job on that, so.
So the next one would be what, end of January, 1st of February, Tony? And I'll remind you. Thank you for getting that for me.
Any other questions about the budget and accounting? All right. Thank you, Tony. All right, is Larry keyed up?
Yep.
Go over the water ordinance. This will be our first reading.
An ordinance prescribing rules and regulations for the conduct and operation of the water system for the city of Sumter, regulating and governing the use of water from said system, providing penalties for violation of this ordinance, repealing ordinance 2020-3 and all other ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith. Ordinance No. 2021-3. The city of Sumter ordains as follows. Section I, Rules and Regulations, Definition of Terms. Article I, Rules and Regulations. This ordinance shall be known as the Rules and Regulations for the operation of the Water Department for the city of Sumter, Oregon, and may be so cited and pleaded. The Water Department and all customers receiving services therefrom, inside or outside the city limits, are bound by these rules and regulations. Article 2, Definition of General Terms. As used in this ordinance, the following words and / or phrases shall mean. Applicant. Whenever the word applicant is used, it shall mean the person or persons, firm, or corporation making application for water service from the city of Sumter. City. Whenever the word city is used, it shall mean the legally constituted municipal government of the city of Sumter, Oregon. City Council. The word city council shall mean the legally elected group of members composing the city council, including the mayor of the city of Sumter, Oregon. Customer or user. The words customer or user shall mean an applicant who has been accepted under the terms of these regulations and who receives water services from the city of Sumter, Oregon. Person. The word person shall mean and include a natural person, individuals, corporations, associations, firms, partnerships, and joint stock companies. Person in charge of property. An agent, occupant, lessee, renter, contract purchaser, or other person having possession or control of property. Person responsible. The person responsible for a water service or for the payment of rates relative to a specific water service location includes the owner or an agent thereof and the person in charge of property as defined in this ordinance. Public Works Employee. The words public works employee shall mean the person appointed by the city council to manage the affairs of the water department and the city water system. Water department. The words water department shall mean the entire water department of the city of Sumter, Oregon. Water system. The words water system shall mean the entire water system owned and operated by the city of Sumter, Oregon. Article 3, Service Area, lookup required. The area served by the water department shall be all that area included within the incorporated limits of the city of Sumter and such other contiguous and neighboring territory as the city council shall deem necessary to serve. All dwellings and other structures requiring a water supply located within the incorporated limits of the city are required to connect to the city water system prior to occupancy or use. Section 2, Service. Article I, Description of Service. The water department will exercise reasonable diligence and care to deliver a continuous and sufficient supply of water to the customer at a reasonable pressure. Whenever practicable, Users will be notified in advance of any planned interruption of service or shutdown of mains for repair or alterations. The city assumes no responsibility for providing uninterrupted water service and will not be liable for damages resulting from such interruptions. Ownership of system. All water mains, valves, fittings, hydrants, and other appurtenances, except for customer service lines, as defined in Section 8, Article I, shall be the property of the Water Department. Classes of service. The classes of service shall be residential, commercial, standby fire, and contract as follows, both inside and outside of the city limits. Residential services shall consist of all services for domestic purposes, single-family dwellings, homes, multifamily dwellings, and municipal purposes. Commercial services shall consist of those services where water is used for commercial purposes, such as but not limited to, businesses, commercial recreation facilities, Airbnbs, and traveler accommodations. Standby fire service shall consist of those services where water is available for or used for fire protection only. Contract services shall consist of those services for industrial or independent water district purposes under contracts authorized by the City Council. When the applicant's requirements for water are unusual or large, such as an independent water district, school, hospital, motel, or recreation vehicle park, or necessitate considerable special or reserve equipment or capacity, the Water Department by authorization of the City Council reserves the right to require and make a special contract for water service, the provisions of which are different from and have exceptions to the regularly established water rates, rules, and regulations. Such special contracts shall be in writing, researched by the city attorney, approved by the City Council, and signed by the mayor and city recorder of the City of Sumter. The applicant shall be liable for any attorney fees required for such contracts. Resale of water. Resale of water shall only be permitted under special contract, in writing, between the City Council and the persons, parties, or corporations selling the water. Article 2. Service during emergency shortage. In the case of shortages of water supply, the City Council may issue emergency and temporary rules to conserve water and ensure an adequate supply of water remains available for basic life functions. Section 3. Applications. Article I. Application for service. Each applicant for water service shall sign an application form provided by the city. Application requirements. The application form shall provide the following information. Date of application. Physical address and location of premises to be served. Date services to premises are to begin. The class of service desired. A statement as to whether the applicant is the owner, lessee, or renter. If applicant is a lessee or renter, owner's name and contact information is required. The mailing address of the applicant. Driver's license number of the applicant. Phone number of the applicant. Any other information the city may so require. Abide by rules. In submitting an application for water service, the applicant will swear under penalties of perjury to agree to abide by the rules and regulations of the City of Sumter. No contractual obligation. The application is merely a written request for service and does not bind the city to provide such service. Deposit and establishment of credit. At the time application for service is made, the applicant shall establish their credit with the city. If the applicant makes a cash deposit with the city to secure payment of bills for service, the deposit shall be a sum established by the City Council and set by resolution. Should the applicant have a previous history of delinquency in payment of their water bills, as determined by the city, and be requesting a new account, the minimum deposit shall be determined on the basis of previous delinquent amounts, or $150, whichever is greater. At the time of application, a deposit shall be made to the city and a receipt will be given for same. The deposit is not to be considered as a payment on account. In the event service is discontinued, the deposit will be applied to the closing bill and any amount more than the closing bill will be refunded. Following 12 consecutive non-delinquent payments for water service, the deposit will be applied to the applicant's billing as credit. The city will not pay any interest on any deposit. If an account becomes delinquent and it is deemed necessary to disconnect the service, the deposit shall be applied to the unpaid balance too. Water service shall not be restored to the premise or the same customer at a different premise until all outstanding bills due the city have been paid. An application for a new service, restoration of service shall be invalid after a period of 180 days from the date of approval by the City Council, or within 30 days of the completion of the meter installation, whichever period is shorter unless the on-premises service connection is completed, and the service is activated by the applicant. If such application is rendered invalid on this basis, the connection fee shall be non-refundable, and a new application and fee will be required if service is still desired by the applicant. Refund of a connection fee shall only be refundable if requested within 30 days of application and prior to the installation of the main line extension and/or meter. After application and approval by the City Council for the installation of a new water service connection, payment shall be paid in full to the city according to the most recent water rate resolution before construction can begin on the new service line by the Water Department. Article 2. Application amendments. Customers desiring a material change in the size, length, character, or extent of equipment or operation which would result in a material change in the amount of water used, shall give the city written notice of such changes at least 30 days prior to the change, and the application for service shall be amended. Customers desiring a change in the size, location, or number of services shall also file an amended application with the city as provided for herein. Section 4, Main Extensions. Article I, within the city limits. Water main extensions to areas within the city limits, not presently served with water, shall be installed under procedures to be established by the city council. Subdividers for newly partitioned properties and developers of newly developing properties shall assume all costs of main extensions, including engineering costs, with the approval of the city council. Article 2, outside the city limits. Water mains outside the city limits shall only be extended after approval of the city council and at the expense of the customer, to be served. This shall include all engineering costs associated therewith. The main extensions shall become the property of the city at the time installed. However, the maintenance responsibilities and costs thereof shall be borne by the customer, until such time as the property, being served are annexed to the city. The city council shall determine the size of the main extensions and all extensions shall be of a suitable material approved by the city council. Extensions outside the city limits shall be installed by a contractor approved by the city council. The installation procedures and materials shall be in accordance with city and state of Oregon standards and approved thereof. Article 3, Location of Extensions. The city of Sumter will make or shall only permit water main extensions on public right-of-ways, public easements, or publicly owned properties. Easements or permits secured for main extensions shall be obtained in the name of the city of Sumter along with all rights and title to the main at the time service is provided to the customer, paying for the extension. Section 5, Water Services. Article I, Connections to the Public Water Service System. All connections made to the city's water services system shall be in accordance with this ordinance and any design standards adopted by relevant city departments. Consent. Connections to active distribution mains for the purpose of extending such lines or providing water service shall be made only by the city or private parties with the written consent of the city. Unlawful acts. It shall be unlawful for any person to attach or detach from any water main or connection through which water is supplied by the city from its water service system, or to interfere in any manner or tamper with such pipes or connections, without having first obtained written permission from the city. Payment of fees. No connections shall be made to the city's water service system until all applicable connection fees, system development charges, meter installation fees, or other applicable fees, are paid in full. Article 2, Service Connections. The city owns the water meter and its connection to the water main. Meter required. Every connection to the water main shall be metered. Multiple buildings on the same parcel may be served through a master meter if under common ownership. Installation of water meters shall be performed only by authorized employees or representatives. During the initial construction phase of the water line, it shall be the responsibility of the property owner to arrange for, and pay a city-approved licensed contractor to install suitable facilities from property line to point of city water connection. All meters shall be sealed by the city at the time of installation, and no seal shall be altered or broken except by one of the authorized employees or representatives. Approved contractor shall use appropriate backfill material approved by the city. Meters shall normally be placed at the curb, right-of-way, or property lines. The meter will be installed wherever the applicant desires within reason, but the location must be approved by the city. The meters will not be located in driveways or other locations where damage to the meter or its related parts, including the housing, may occur or is likely to occur. The service connection to a parcel of land shall not be used to supply an adjoining parcel of a different owner, or to supply a separate parcel of the same owner for which proper application for service has not been made. When property provided with the service is subdivided, the service connection shall be considered as supplying the parcel of land which it directly enters. The use of hoses and other non-permanent delivery systems to convey water for the purpose of providing water service to adjacent parcels is strictly prohibited. Water use by multi-residents, occupying the same residence structure but served by separate water lines shall each constitute a separate water service and will be so charged. Water use by one or more businesses occupying the same business structure but served by separate water service lines shall each constitute separate services. Separate individuals, families, companies, firms, corporations, or other business entities occupying separate residence or business structures served by one service line shall each constitute a separate water service, except for medical hardship after 30 days. Two separate occupant households existing on the same property shall be serviced by separate service lines and shall each constitute a separate water service. Except as otherwise provided in this ordinance, each water service customer shall pay the basic rate and meter rate set forth by the city council. Size. The city shall ensure that the service lateral and water meter serving the premise is of adequate size to supply the estimated use by the premise. The size of the meter serving a premise may be changed at the request of the user if the city concurs that the requested size is appropriate. The user shall pay the estimated cost of making the change. Meter size will not be changed for any premise more frequently than once per year. Failure to comply. Failure to comply with the provisions of this section may result in the immediate discontinuance of water service. Section 6, Plumbing. Article I, Customer's Plumbing. The user's plumbing, which shall include the user's service line and all plumbing, piping, fixtures and other appurtenance carrying or intended to carry water from the meter to the dwelling or other structure, shall comply with the plumbing code of the state of Oregon. Kept in repair. It shall be the responsibility of the user to keep piping and fixtures in good repair to prevent damage to premises and waste of water. No liability. The city shall not be responsible or liable for damage to property resulting from turning on or continuing water system service to premises having defective plumbing. Section 7, Standby Fire Protection Service Connections. Article I, Standby Fire Protection. Standby fire protection service connections of 2-inch size and larger will be installed only if adequate provisions are made to prevent the use of water from such services for purposes other than fire extinguishing. Sealed fire sprinkler systems with water-operated alarms shall be considered as having such provisions. The city may require that a suitable detector check may be installed in the standby fire protection service connections, to which hose lines or hydrants are connected. All piping on the customer's premises shall be installed in accordance with the plumbing code of the state of Oregon and as required by the state fire marshal. Charges for service. Charges for standby fire protection services as set forth by the city council. The customer shall pay the full cost of the standby fire protection service connection, any required detector check meters, and any required special water meter installed for the service to the standby connection. Violations of regulations. If water is used from a standby pipe connection service in violation of these regulations, an estimate of the amount used will be computed by the city staff subject to city council approval. The customer shall pay for the water used at the regular rates, including the minimum charge based on the size of the service connection or class of service and subsequent bills rendered based on regular applicable water rates. Article 2, Fire Service Connections other than standby. A service having fire protection facilities on the premises and water for other purposes flowing through the same service connection shall be considered as an ordinary service and metered as such. All water used through that service, regardless of its use, will be charged at the regular applicable rate. Article 3, Temporary Service Connections. For water service of a temporary nature, applicants shall be required to pay in advance the estimated costs of installation and removal of metering equipment and materials, plus a reasonable depreciation charge for the use of equipment and material used by the city. A time limit. Temporary service connections shall be disconnected and terminated within 6 months after installation unless an extension of time is approved by the city. Fee charges for service. Charges for water furnished through a temporary service connection shall be at the current city rate for the proper use class. See installation charges and deposits. An application for temporary service will be required. The applicant must pay the city, in advance, the estimated cost of installing and removing all facilities necessary to furnish such service, and deposit with the city an amount equal to the value of any equipment loaned by the city to such applicant. D. Responsibility for meters and installations. The customer shall use all possible care to prevent damage to the meter or to any equipment loaned by the city. If the meter or other facilities are damaged, the cost of making repairs shall be the responsibility of the customer. If the loaned materials are returned in satisfactory condition and all bills are paid, the full amount of the equipment deposit will be returned to the temporary customer at the termination of the service. Section 8, Notices. Article I, Types of Notice. Notices from the city to customers will be given in writing and delivered to the last known address. Where conditions warrant and, particularly in emergencies, the city may notify either by telephone or by city employee. In the case of renters or lessees, notice will also be given to the property owner as indicated on the application for service. Notices from customers to the city may be given by the customer or an authorized agent thereof, orally or in writing, at City Hall. Article 2, Discontinuance of Service. Any customer about to vacate any premises supplied with water service by the city, including renters and lessees, shall give the city notice of intentions at least 5 days prior specifying the date service or occupancy of the premises is to be discontinued. Section 9, Billing and Payment. Article I, Meters. When applicable, meters will be read, and customers billed, based on the meter readings. The city will keep an accurate account on its books of all readings of meters, and such accounts kept shall be offered at all times of the use of water service by the customer. Article 2, Rendering of Bills. Except as provided for otherwise in this ordinance, when applicable, all meters shall be read and bills rendered monthly. Opening or closing bills, or bills that for any reason covering a period 10% more days or 10% less days than in the normal billing period of 30 days shall be prorated. All meters supplying a customer's premises shall be billed separately. Article 3, Disputed Accounts. When a customer disputes the correctness of a bill, a deposit in the amount of the disputed bill, at the time the complaint is lodged, to preclude discontinuance of service pending final settlement of the bill or bills. Subsequent bills shall be paid or placed on deposit in a similar manner. Failure. Article 4, Reading of meters. When if it shall be impossible or impractical to read a meter on the regular reading date or on a regular monthly basis, the City Council shall specify, by resolution, which month meters are to be read, and water consumption shall be prorated based on 30 days per month, and the total water consumption for the billing purposes for those months shall be estimated. Article B, Owner of record and payment of bills. The property owner of record as shown by the records of the Baker County Assessor, as well as the renter or lessee of the same, payment of all water charges and fees prescribed in this ordinance. All water billings shall be mailed to the given mailing address where water service is furnished unless the property owner, renter, or lessee states otherwise. Each bill rendered shall contain the final date on which payment is due. When the bill is not paid by that date, the account shall be considered delinquent. Section 10, Delinquent Accounts. Article I, Notice. Delinquent Notice. An account shall be declared delinquent after the 25th day of the month. A reminder of account delinquency may be sent to each delinquent account. If the property is rented or leased, a copy of the delinquent account shall be sent to legal property owner as so listed in city records. Shut off of services notice. 10 business days after an account becomes delinquent, a shut-off notice will be delivered to the delinquent residents, giving notice that the utility services will be disconnected for non-payment on a given date, unless the delinquent account is paid in full, or payments pursuant to an agreement for payment approved by the city. Service turn-off. On the turn-off date, the city maintenance personnel shall deliver a written notice to the premises stating the water service is being disconnected until all delinquent amounts have been paid. A delivery of the notice to the premises of the delinquent account meter shall be considered a delivery of the notice to the customer. The owner of the property shall be notified also. Article 2, Restoration of service, service charge, and deposit. In all instances where water service has been turned off due to non-payment on delinquent accounts, full payment of the delinquent amount must be paid prior to restoration of service. The rates for restoration of service will be established by resolution. This charge must be paid in full along with the delinquent amount before restoration of service. The city may also require a new deposit in the amount provided for in Section 3, Article I of this ordinance. Section 11, Collection of bills, delinquent, and penalty fees. Article I, Collection of bills. The city may enforce the collection of rates and charges for the use of water and water facilities by any means that may be provided by the laws of the state of Oregon or permitted by charter and ordinances of the city. All water service charges shall be a lien against the premises served from and after the date of delinquency and entry in the city lien docket. The lien docket shall be accessible for inspection by anyone interested in ascertaining the amount of charges against the property. When a bill for water service remains unpaid 60 days after it is delinquent, the lien created thereby may be foreclosed in the manner provided for by ORS 223.610, or in any other manner provided by state law or city ordinance. Article 2, Delinquent Fees. Should an account become more than 30 days delinquent, there shall be added a delinquent fee. This fee will be established by resolution. Article 3, Installment payments of delinquent accounts. In cases of extreme hardship, the City Council shall have the discretion of renewing service to a delinquent account upon receipt of a satisfactory installment plan for the payment of the overdue amount. Such installment period shall not exceed the period the account was delinquent, and future charges shall be kept current during the installment period. Failure of a customer to meet the conditions of the installment plan shall constitute grounds for immediate disconnection of services. Article 4, Refusal of service. The city may refuse water service to any property upon which a lien has been attached until the amount owing on the lien has been paid to the city along with the service charges for restoration of services. The city may also refuse service to a customer with an outstanding delinquent balance until such balance and all required deposits are paid in full. Section 12, Meter Error. Article I, Meter Test. Meter test will be conducted in accordance with standards of practice established by the American Water Works Association. Customer request. A customer may, upon giving 10-day notice, request the city to test the meter servicing customer premises. Customers may, at their option, witness any meter test which they request during normal working hours. If a customer requests the city have a meter tested by an independent testing facility and the meter meets the accuracy standard of this section, the customer will be responsible for paying for the testing. If, however, the meter does not meet the accuracy standard of this section, the city will be responsible for paying for the testing. City request. If, upon comparison of past water usage, it appears that a meter is not registering properly, the city may, at their option, test a meter and adjust the charges accordingly. Article 2, Adjustment. Should a meter be found to be out of the allowable tolerance for error, or found to be non-registering, the bill will be completed upon an estimate of consumption based either upon the customer's prior use during the same season of the year or upon a reasonable comparison with the use of other customers receiving the same class of service during the same season and under similar circumstances and conditions. Comparison factors that may be taken into account include, but are not limited to, the number of plumbing facilities, number of household water using appliances, number of household members, potential non-household uses such as lawn area, garden, etc. Section 13, Discontinuance of service. Article I, on customer's request. Each customer about to vacate any premises that is supplied with water service by the city shall give the city at least 5 days notice of intent, thereby specifying the date service is to discontinue. Otherwise, said customer will be responsible for all water supplied to such premises until the city shall receive notice of such removal. At the time specified by the customer that expects to vacate the premises where service is supplied or the customer desires to be discontinued, the meter will be read, and a bill rendered which is payable immediately. If the date the premises are vacated is less than a full monthly billing, then the final billing shall be prorated for days of use of city water service. Article 2, non-payment of bills. A customer's water service may be discontinued if the water bills are not paid in accordance with this ordinance. Article 3, improper customer facilities. Unsafe facilities. The city may refuse to furnish water and may discontinue service to any premises without prior notice where plumbing facilities, appliances, or equipment using water are dangerous, unsafe, or are not in conformity with the plumbing code of the state of Oregon. Cross connections. A cross connection is defined as any physical or potential connection between the city's water system and another source. The Oregon State Health Division, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and the U.S. Public Health Service prohibit cross connections. The city nor the water department will permit any cross connections and will discontinue service to any persons or premises where a cross connection exists. Service will not be restored until the cross connection is eliminated. Separate systems. Customers using water from one or more sources, in addition to receiving water from the city on the same premises, shall maintain separate systems for each, and the city's water supply facilities shall be separated from any and all other systems by an air gap of not less than 1 foot, or if in the ground, by not less than 5 feet. Water waste. Where water is wastefully or negligently used on a customer's premises, seriously affecting the general service, the city may discontinue service if such conditions are not corrected after given notice to the premises by the city. Article 4, service detrimental to others. Excessive demands. The city may refuse to furnish water, may discontinue service, or may otherwise regulate service to any premises where excessive demands by a customer may result in inadequate service to others. Fraud or abuse. The city will refuse or discontinue service to any premises where it is deemed necessary to protect the city from fraud or abuse. Discontinuance of service, from one or both causes, will be made immediately upon knowledge by the city that the condition or conditions exist. Unauthorized turn on. Where water service has been discontinued for any reason and the water is turned on by the customer or other unauthorized person, the water may then be shut off at the main or the meter removed. The charges for shutting off the water at the main or removing the meter shall be computed at actual cost to the city plus 15%, but not less than $50. These charges shall be billed to the offending customer and water shall not be furnished to the premises or customer until such charges are paid and the city has reasonable assurance that the violation will not reoccur. Non-compliance with ordinance and regulations. The city may, upon 24 hours notice, discontinue service to a customer's premises for failure to comply with any of the provisions of this ordinance, except for imminent health conditions, as deemed by the public works employee or by the city council. At that time, disconnection will be immediate. Section 14, restoration of service. Article I, policy. Restoration of service after discontinuance for non-payment of bills shall only be made after payment of current and past due charges, plus a service restoration charge, established by resolution, and posting a deposit as required by this ordinance. Restoration of service after discontinuance of service for unsafe facilities, water waste, fraud, abuse, or for non-compliance with any of the provisions of this ordinance, or any other related policies of the city, will only be made after the irregularity has been corrected and the city has been assured that the irregularity will not reoccur. The restoration charge, established by resolution, plus any other charges due or past due that the city may have incurred to correct the irregularity shall be paid before restoration of service. Article 2, unusual demands. When an abnormally large quantity of water is desired for filling a swimming pool, a pond, or for other purposes, arrangements must be made with the city prior to taking such action. Permission for such use of water, in large quantities, will only be granted if other consumers are not inconvenienced and if adequate water supplies are available. Article 3, access to property. All duly appointed employees, agents, or contractors of the city, under the direction of the city, shall have access at all reasonable hours of the day to any and all parts of structures and premises in which water is, or may be delivered for the purposes of inspecting connections, the conditions of contents and fixtures, the manner and extent in which the water is being used, and more particularly in emergency situations. The city does not, however, assume the duty of inspecting the customer's line, plumbing, and equipment and shall not be responsible therefore. Section 15, responsibility for equipment. Article I, responsibility for customer equipment. The city shall not be held liable for any loss or damage of any nature whatsoever caused by any defect in the customer's line, plumbing, or equipment. Nor shall the city be held liable for loss or damage due to interruption of service or temporary changes in pressure. The customer shall be responsible for valves on premises being turned off when the water service is turned on. Article 2. Responsibility for city equipment. City equipment on the customer's premises remains the property of the city and may be repaired, replaced, or removed by the city employees at any time without the consent of the owner. No payment will be made to the property owner for the right to install, maintain, replace, or remove city equipment on his or her premises. The property owner must keep vicious dogs or other animals secured or confined to avoid interference with city operations and maintenance. Damage to city equipment. The customer shall be liable for any damage to equipment owned by the city which is caused by an act of the customer, his or her tenants, agents, employees, contractors, licensees, or permittees. Damage to equipment shall include, but not limited to, breaking of seals and locks and tampering with meters, injury to meters, including but not limited to damages by hot water or steam, and damaged meter boxes, curb stops, meter stops and other appurtenances. Inclement weather. The customer will take all reasonable care to ensure that city equipment, i.e., meters, meter stops, service lines, etc., are not damaged due to inclement weather. Section 16, Fire Hydrants. Article I, Operation. No person other than those designated and authorized by the city or the fire department shall open any fire hydrant belonging to the city, attempt to draw water from the hydrant or in any manner damage or tamper with the hydrant. Any violation of this provision will be prosecuted according to the law. No tool other than a special hydrant wrench shall be used to operate a hydrant valve. In cases where a temporary service has been granted and water received through a fire hydrant, an auxiliary valve will be provided to control the flow of water. Article 2, Moving a fire hydrant. When a fire hydrant has been installed in the location specified by the city and fire department have fulfilled their obligation. If a property owner or other party desires to change the size or location of the hydrant, he or she shall bear all costs of such changes. Approval must be obtained by the Sumter City Council and Fire Department before any changes can take place. Section 17, Penalties and Suspension of Rules. Article I, Penalties. Any person violating any of the provisions of this ordinance shall, upon conviction, be punished by a fine not exceeding $1,000. Article 2, Suspension of Rules. No employee or agent of the city is authorized to suspend or alter any of the provisions of this ordinance as cited herein without specific approval or direction of the city council, except in cases of emergency involving loss of life or property or which would place the city's water system operation in jeopardy. Section 18, Repeater, Interpretations, Severability, and Corrections. Article 1, Repeater. City Ordinance #2020-3 and all amendments thereto are hereby repealed in their entireties and the provisions of any other prior ordinance of the City of Sumter that may be in conflict with any of the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed and superseded. Article 2, Interpretations. All pronouns contained in this ordinance and any variations thereof will be deemed to refer to the masculine, feminine, or neutral, singular or plural, as the identity of the parties may require. The singular includes the plural and the plural includes the singular. The word or is not exclusive. The words include, includes, and including are not limiting. Any reference to a particular law, statute, rule, regulation, code, or ordinance includes the law, statute, rule, regulation, code, or ordinance as now in force and hereafter amended. Article 3, Severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, and / or portion of this ordinance is for any reason held invalid, unenforceable, and / or unconstitutional, such invalid, unenforceable, and / or unconstitutional section, subsection, sentence, clause, and / or portion will, a, yield to a construction permitting enforcement to the maximum extent permitted by applicable law, and b, not affect the validity, enforceability, and / or constitutionality of the remaining portion of this ordinance. Article 4, Corrections. This ordinance may be corrected by order of the City Council to cure editorial and / or clerical errors. Nothing in this ordinance affects the validity of any criminal or civil enforcement actions commenced prior to the adoption of this ordinance. All city ordinances existing at the time such actions were filed will remain valid and in full force and effect for purposes of those actions. This ordinance will be enacted 30 days after council approval.
There you go.
Has council noticed any corrections that need to be made with this reading?
I found none.
If it's clerical, we can do it, it doesn't matter.
On the severability, it says and/or portion.
It's portion, yeah.
Down, the last page, section 3, severability, third line down, this is sentence clause in,
Okay.
or should be portion.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion to do second read by title only for ordinance number 2021-3.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? All right, it's been approved to read ordinance number 2021-3 by title only.
Larry,
I don't know, can Larry read it by title only?
No, all you have to do is read that. City of Sumter, an ordinance prescribing rules and regulations for the conduct.
You're doing a good job.
Okay. Conduct and operation of the water system of the city of Sumter, regulating and governing the uses of water from said system, providing penalties of violations of the ordinance, repealing ordinance 2020-3 and all other ordinances, or parts of ordinances in conflict with it. Oh, therein.
Herewith.
Okay, therewith.
Then we read ordinance number 2021-3, section 1, rules and regulations dash definition of terms. Section 2, service. Section 3.
You don't have to do that?
You don't do that.
Main title.
By title only, that's this.
Yeah.
That's what I read.
Yeah.
Oh.
When they did everything that needed to be done.
That's the way we used to do it. So you just do it by the first
this is
time.
the easier way.
I like it. I like it. Okay. Is there a motion to accept and establish ordinance number 2021-3?
I make a motion that we accept ordinance number 2021-3 as read and corrected.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ordinance number 2021-3 passes unanimously and will take effect 30 days from today. All right, first reading of City of Sumter ordinance number 2021-2, our sewer ordinance.
City of Sumter.
Should we take a 5-minute break for bathrooms and things?
That's fine, we can find that break.
It's 10 to 6.
I know.
It's gonna take another 45 minutes. Well, probably about a half hour.
Speed that up.
Oh, yeah. They got a higher speed.
Speed range.
Why not?
All right, let's
So
continue then.
Sumter. Ordinance No 2021-2. An ordinance regulating the use and construction of community and on-site sewers and drains, private sewage disposal, the installation and connection of building sewers, sewer connection fees, the discharges of water and waste into the community and on-site sewer systems, providing penalties for violations thereof, repealing ordinance 2022 in the city of Sumter, county of Baker, state of Oregon. The city of Sumter, county of Baker, state of Oregon, ordains as follows. Article I Declaration of Intent. The city of Sumter, hereinafter called city, in a further desire to define its responsibilities and the responsibilities of property owners to the community sewer system and on-site sewer systems and the availability of the system and requirements for its use of its residents, sets out the following requirements. Article 2. Definitions. Unless the context specifically indicates otherwise, the meaning of terms used in this ordinance and users charge ordinance shall be as follows. 1. Commercial buildings shall mean all buildings or premises used for any purpose other than a residence or multiple residence building. 2. Person shall mean any individual, company, firm, association, society, corporation, or group. The singular includes the plural. 3. Building sewer, as defined by the Oregon Plumbing Specialty Code, shall mean that part of a system of drainage piping that conveys sewage into an interceptor tank, cesspool, or other treatment unit that begins 5 feet outside the building or structure within which the sewer originates. 4. Residence shall mean a building or structure constructed and primarily for family residential purposes, including but not limited to single-family structures, structures which provide for 2 or more families and mobile homes. 5. Community sewer system, shall mean all public sewers operated under the city's authority. 6. Interceptor tank shall mean a 2-compartment tank installed between the building sewer and the community sewer system. STEG system is a gravity system. Step system is a pumping system. 7. Public treatment works shall mean any treatment works operated by the city including interceptor tanks, holding ponds, or irrigation systems. A on-site system shall mean a septic tank and drain field or mounted or other collection, treatment, and disposal system that is initiated and completed on private property and is not connected to the community sewer system. 9 sludge shall mean any discharge of water, sewage, or industrial waste which in concentration of any given constituent or in quantity of flow exceeds for any period of duration longer than 15 minutes more than 5 times the average 24-hour concentration of flows during normal operation. 10 storm drain shall mean the drainage system which carries storm and surface waters and drainage but excludes sewage and industrial waste and other polluted water. 11 public sewer shall mean the community sewer system. 12 public works employee shall mean the city employee authorized to act on behalf of the city regarding the community sewer system. This individual acts in accordance with direction from the city council. 13 sewage shall mean water carrying human wastes, including kitchen, bath, and laundry wastes from residences, buildings, industrial establishments, or other places, together with such groundwater infiltration, surface waters, or industrial waste, may be present. 14 effluent sewer shall mean that part of the community sewer system located between an interceptor tank and a street sewer. 15 building drain as defined by the Oregon Plumbing Specialty Code, shall mean the part of the lowest piping of a drainage system that receives the discharge from soil, waste, and other drainage pipes inside the walls of the building and conveys it to the building sewer beginning 5 feet outside the building wall. 16 user shall mean any property that has city sewer service. Article 3. Use and installation of sewer system. Section 1. It shall be unlawful for any person to place, deposit or permit to be deposited in any unsanitary manner on public or private property within the city of Sumter any sewage or human excrement. Section 2. It shall be unlawful to discharge to any natural outlet or stream, within the city or in any area under the jurisdiction of the city, any sewage or other polluted waters, except where suitable treatment has been provided in accordance with subsequent provisions of this ordinance. Section 3. It shall be unlawful to construct or maintain any privy vault, septic tank, cesspool, or other facility intended or used for the disposal of sewage except as provided in this ordinance and approved by the city, or as approved by Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. Section 4. Except as stated in Section 6 below, the owner of any commercial building or residence used for human occupancy, employment, recreation, or any other purpose, abutting an available city sanitary sewer line, is required at their own expense to have installed a STEG/step system and connect such facility to the public sewer in accordance with the provisions of this ordinance, within 30 days after date of official notice from the city to do so, except as otherwise herein provided. Section 5. Upon the failure of the owner to connect his premises to the city sewer system as required by this ordinance, the city, after giving said owner an opportunity to be heard before the city council, may proceed to connect said premises to the city sewer system, in accordance with the same procedure as if owner were connecting as provided in this ordinance. The cost thereof shall be charged against and become a lien upon said property and may be recovered by action of law or may be certified for collection by the tax collector as provided in Ors 224 and 454. In addition, thereto, any person failing to comply with the written notice mentioned in Article 3, Section 4 hereof shall be in violation of the provisions of this ordinance and subject to the penalties. For purposes of maintenance and installation by the city upon the failure of an owner to connect as required by this ordinance, the city shall have the right to enter said premises for purposes of construction and maintenance of any facilities necessary to install the Interceptor/STEG/step system and thereafter maintain the same as in reasonably required for such purposes. Section 6. During the initial construction phase of the treatment system, it shall be the responsibility of the property owner to arrange for and pay city-approved licensed contractor to install suitable facilities from outflow of interceptor tank to point of city sewer connection subject to the permit provisions contained in Section 2 of this article. Section 7. Approved contractor shall use appropriate backfill material approved by the city. Section 8. The city may refuse connection, require retreatment of wastewater, or discontinue service when such action is deemed necessary in order to prevent discharges into the system which would be harmful to it. Article 4. On-site sewer system. Section 1. Where a community sewer system is not available, the building sewer shall be connected to an on-site disposal system, complying with the provisions of the article and the laws of the state of Oregon and the county of Baker and approved by the city. The interceptor tank must comply with city specifications for future hookup to the community sewer system. Section 2. Before commencement of construction of an on-site sewer disposal system, which includes repair, alteration, or expansion of any existing system, the owner shall first obtain a written permit from the state of Oregon, Department of Environmental Quality, or equivalent agency, as may be required. Section 3. At such time as a community sewer becomes available to the property served by an on-site sewage system, or upon failure of current system, a direct connection through an interceptor tank shall be made to the community sewer in compliance with this ordinance and as determined necessary by action of the city. At any time, any septic tanks, cesspools, and similar private sewage disposal facilities that do not meet requirements of the ordinance shall be abandoned, removed and/or filled in within 1 year in accordance with the state law at no expense to the city. Section 4. No statement contained in this article shall be construed to interfere with any additional requirement that may be imposed by the state of Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. Article B. Community sewer system connections. Section 1. The community sewer system as presently designed is limited in capacity for both initial hook UBS and flow through the system. All connections to the community sewer system shall be permitted only after the city has determined that there is a demonstrated need for such connection. No connections shall be allowed outside the corporate city limits without written consent of the city. Section 2. No unauthorized person shall uncover, make any connections with or opening into, use, alter, or disturb any community sewer or property of the city relating to the community sewer system, without first obtaining a permit from the city of Sumter. In addition to any requirements of the state of Oregon, the permit application shall include any plans, specification, and easements to such form prescribed by the city, granting access for installation and maintenance for the Interceptor STEG/step system. A permit inspection fee for residential or commercial building shall be paid to the city at the time the application is filed. Fee shall be set by resolution. Section 3. All costs and expenses incident to the installation and connection of the building sewer to the community system shall be borne by the property owner, including the costs of all interceptor tanks or connecting lines that need to be installed to service the property. The property owner shall reimburse the city for any loss or damage that may directly or indirectly occur from the installation of the building sewer. Section 4. Whenever possible, the building sewer shall be brought to the building at an elevation below the lowest sewer drain. In all buildings in which any building drain is too low to permit gravity flow to the public sewer, sanitary sewage carried by such building drain shall be lifted by an approved means and discharged to or from the interceptor tank and public sewer system at no cost to the city. Section 5. No person shall make connection of roof downspouts, exterior foundation drains, area drains, or other sources of surface runoff or groundwater to a building sewer or building drain which in turn is connected directly or indirectly to the public sewer. Section 6. The connection of the building sewer into the interceptor tank and community sewer system shall conform to the requirements of the State of Oregon Department of Environmental Quality and the city. Section 7. The applicant for the building sewer permit shall notify the city when the building sewer is ready for inspection and connection to the public sewer. The connection shall be under the supervision of a public works employee, as well as any inspection from other governmental agencies. No piping, fitting, or tankage shall be backfilled or covered in any way until the public works employee or city's representative has inspected and approved the work. Streets and private property disturbed in the course of the work shall be set to grade of adjacent ground. Section 8. All excavations for the effluent phase of the sewer system installation shall be adequately guarded with barricades to protect the public from hazard. Any excavation shall comply with any excavation standards required by the city, Baker County, or the State of Oregon. Article 6. Connection fees. Section 1. The connection fees imposed by this section pertain to sewage system service to existing buildings and to vacant lots, that in the judgment of the council of the city, may reasonably be served by such system. The fee for connection to such system shall be set by resolution. Fees for connections of existing buildings to the system shall be due within 30 days of notice to connect sent to all affected property owners by the city. Where permits have been obtained pursuant to Article B, Section 2, connection fees for vacant lots and future building within the city limits shall be payable in advance. Applicants for connections to be made after completion of construction of the system shall pay a fee, set by resolution. Article 7. Applications. Section 1. Application for service. Each applicant for sewer service shall sign an application form provided by the city. Application requirements. The application form shall provide the following information. Date of application. Physical address and location of premises to be served. Date services to premises are to begin. The class of service desired. A statement as to whether the applicant is the owner, lessee, or renter. If applicant is a lessee or renter, owner's name and contact information is required. The mailing address of the applicant. Driver's license number of the applicant. Phone number of the applicant. Any other information the city may so require. Section 2. Abide by rules. In submitting an application for sewer service, the applicant will swear under penalties of perjury to agree to abide by the rules and regulations of the city of Sumter. Section 3. No contractual obligation. The application is merely a written request for service and does not bind the city to provide such service. Section 4. Deposit and establishment of credit. At the time application for service is made, the applicant shall establish their credit with the city. If the applicant makes a cash deposit with the city to secure payment of bills for service, the deposit shall be a sum established by the city council and set by resolution. Should the applicant have a previous history of delinquency in payment of their sewer bills, as determined by the city, and be requesting a new account, the minimum deposit shall be determined on the basis of previous delinquent amounts, or $150, whichever is greater. At the time of application, a deposit shall be made to the city and a receipt will be given for same. The deposit is not to be considered as a payment on account. In the event service is discontinued, the deposit will be applied to the closing bill and any amount more than the closing bill will be refunded. Following 12 consecutive non-delinquent payments for sewer service, the deposit will be applied to the applicant's billing as credit. The city will not pay any interest on any deposit. If an account becomes delinquent and it is deemed necessary to disconnect the service, the deposit shall be applied to the unpaid balance due. Sewer service shall not be restored to the premise or the same customer at a different premise until all outstanding bills due the city have been paid. An application for a new service or restoration of service shall be invalid after a period of 180 days from the date of approval by the city council, or within 30 days of the completion of installation, whichever period is shorter unless the on-premises service connection is completed, and the service is activated by the applicant. If such application is rendered invalid on this basis, the connection fee shall be non-refundable, and a new application and fee will be required if service is still desired by the applicant. Refund of a connection fee shall only be refundable if requested within 30 days of application and prior to the installation of the main line extension. After application and approval by the city council for the installation of a new sewer service connection, payment shall be paid in full to the city according to the most recent sewer rate resolution before construction can begin on the new service line by the sewer department. Article 8. Notices. Section 1. Types of notice. Notices from the city to customers will be given in writing and delivered to the last known address. Where conditions warrant and, particularly in emergencies, the city may notify either by telephone or by city employee. In the case of renters or lessees, notice will also be given to the property owner as indicated on the application for service. Notices from customers to the city may be given by the customer or an authorized agent thereof, orally or in writing, at City Hall. Section 2. Discontinuance of service. Any customer about to vacate any premises supplied with water service by the city, including renters and lessees, shall give the city notice of intentions at least 5 days prior specifying the date service or occupancy of the premises is to be discontinued. Article 9. Billing and payment. Section 1. Rendering of bills. Except as provided for otherwise in this ordinance, bills will be rendered monthly. Opening or closing bills, or bills that for any reason covering a period 10% more days or 10% less days than in the normal billing period of 30 days shall be prorated. Section 2. Disputed accounts. When a customer disputes the correctness of a bill, a deposit in the amount of the disputed bill at the time the complaint is lodged, to preclude discontinuance of service pending final settlement of the bill or bills. Subsequent bills shall be paid or placed on deposit in a similar manner. Failure of the customer to make such deposit, shall warrant discontinuance of service as provided under this ordinance. Section 3. Owner of record and payment of bills. The property owner of record as shown by the records of the Baker County Assessor, as well as the renter or lessee of the same, shall be responsible for the payment of all sewer charges and fees prescribed in this ordinance. All sewer billings shall be mailed to the given mailing address where sewer service is furnished unless the property owner, renter, or lessee states otherwise. Each bill rendered shall contain the final date on which payment is due. If the bill is not paid by that date, the account shall be considered delinquent. Article X, Delinquent Accounts. Section 1. Notice. Delinquent notice. An account shall be declared delinquent after the 25th day of the month. A reminder of account delinquency may be sent to each delinquent account. If the property is rented or leased, a copy of the delinquent account shall be sent to legal property owner as so listed in city records. Shut-off of services notice. 10 business days after an account becomes delinquent, a shut-off notice will be delivered to the delinquent residents giving notice that the utility services will be disconnected for non-payment on a given date unless the delinquent account is paid in full, or payments pursuant to an agreement for payment approved by the city. Service turned off. On the turned-off date, the city maintenance personnel shall deliver a written notice to the premises stating the sewer service is being disconnected until all delinquent amounts have been paid. A delivery of the notice to the premises of the delinquent account shall be considered a delivery of the notice to the customer. The owner of the property shall be notified also. Section 2. Restoration of service, service charge, and deposit. In all instances where sewer service has been turned off due to non-payment on delinquent accounts, full payment of the delinquent amount must be paid prior to restoration of service. The rates for restoration of service will be established by resolution. This charge must be paid in full along with the delinquent amount before restoration of service. The city may also require a new deposit in the amount provided for in Article 7, Section 4A of this ordinance. Article 11. Collection of bills, delinquent, and penalty fees. Section 1. Collection of bills. The city may enforce the collection of rates and charges for the use of sewer facilities by any means that may be provided by the laws of the state of Oregon or permitted by charter and ordinances of the city. All sewer service charges shall be a lien against the premises served from and after the date of delinquency and entry in the city lien docket. The lien docket shall be accessible for inspection by anyone interested in ascertaining the amount of charges against the property. When a bill for sewer service remains unpaid 60 days after it is delinquent, the lien created thereby may be foreclosed in the manner provided for by ORS 223.610, or in any other manner provided by state law or city ordinance. Section 2. Delinquent fees. Should an account become more than 30 days delinquent, there shall be added a delinquent fee. This fee will be established by resolution. Section 3. Installment payments of delinquent accounts. In cases of extreme hardship, the city council shall have the discretion of renewing service to a delinquent account upon receipt of a satisfactory installment plan for the payment of the overdue amount. Such installment period shall not exceed the period the account was delinquent, and future charges shall be kept current during the installment period. Failure of a customer to meet the conditions of the installment plan shall constitute grounds for immediate disconnection of services. Section 4. Refusal of service. The city may refuse sewer service to any property upon which a lien has been attached until the amount owing on the lien has been paid to the city along with the service charges for restoration of services. The city may also refuse service to a customer with an outstanding delinquent balance until such balance and all required deposits are paid in full. Article 12. Use of the public sewers. Section 1. No person shall discharge or cause to be discharged any storm, surface, groundwater, roof runoff, subsurface drainage, uncontaminated cooling water, or unpolluted industrial waters to any sanitary sewer. Section 2. No person shall discharge or cause to be discharged any of the following described waters or wastes to any public sewers. Any gasoline, benzene, naphtha, fuel oil, or other flammable or explosive liquid, solid or gas. Any waters or wastes containing toxic, dangerous, hazardous, or poisonous solids, liquids, or gases in any quantity or concentration, either singly or by interaction with other wastes to injure or interfere with any sewage treatment process, constitute a hazard to humans or animals, create a public nuisance, or create any hazard in the receiving waters of the public sewer, holding ponds, land treatment site, etc. See any waters or wastes any other corrosive or synergistic property capable of causing damage or hazard to structures, equipment, and personnel of the city. D. Solid or viscous substances in quantities or of such size capable of causing obstruction to the flow in the public sewer, or other interference with the proper operation of the sewage works such as, but not limited to ashes, plastics, wood, unground garbage, whole blood, paunch manure, hair, and fleshing, entrails and paper dishes, cups, milk containers, etc., either whole or ground by garbage grinders. Any waste not pre-treated by an interceptor tank. Section 3. No person shall discharge or cause to be discharged the following substances, water, or wastes, if it appears likely in the opinion of the city that such waste can harm either the sewers, sewage treatment process, or equipment, have an adverse effect on the receiving stream, or can otherwise endanger life, limb, public property, or constitute a nuisance. In forming their opinion as to the acceptability of these wastes, the city will give consideration such factors as to quantities of subject waste in relation to flows and velocities in the sewers, capacity of the sewage treatment facility, holding ponds, and other pertinent factors. The substances prohibited are any liquid or vapor having a temperature higher than 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Any water or waste containing fats, gas, grease, or oils, whether emulsified or not. in excess of 100 mg/1 or containing substances which may solidify or become viscous at temperatures between 32 and 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Any garbage that has not been properly shredded. Any water or waste containing strong acid, iron, pickling wastes, or concentrated plating solutions whether neutralized or not. Any waters or wastes containing iron, chromium, copper, zinc, and similar objectionable or toxic substances, or wastes exerting an excessive chlorine requirement, to such degree that any such material received at the sewage treatment works exceeds the limits established by the city for such materials. Any waters or wastes containing phenols or other taste or odor producing substances, in such concentrations exceeding limits which may be established by the city, as necessary after treatment of the composite sewage, to meet the requirements of the state, federal, or other public agencies or jurisdictions for such discharge to the land treatment system. Any radioactive wastes or isotopes or concentration that may exceed limits established by the public works employee in compliance with applicable state or federal regulations. Any waters or wastes having a pH in excess of 9.5. Materials which exert or cause 1. Unusual concentrations of inert suspended solids such as but not limited to fuller's earth, lime slurries, and lime residues, or of dissolved solids such as, but not limited to sodium chloride and sodium sulfate. 2. Excessive discoloration such as, but not limited to, dye wastes and vegetable tanning solutions. 3. Unusual VOD, chemical oxygen damage, or chlorine requirements in such quantities as to constitute a significant load on the sewage treatment works. 4. Unusual volume of flow or concentration of waste constituting sludge. Waters or wastes containing substances which are not amenable to treatment or reduction by the sewage processes employed, or facility effluent cannot meet the requirements of other agencies having jurisdiction over discharge to the land treatment system. Section 4. If any waters or wastes are discharged or are proposed to be discharged or possess the characteristics enumerated in Section 3 of this article, have a harmful effect upon the sewage works, processes, equipment, or receiving waters, or which otherwise create a hazard to life or constitute a public nuisance, the city may reject the wastes. Require retreatment to an acceptable condition for discharge to the public sewers at no cost to the city. Require control over the quantities and rates of discharge and/or require payment to cover the added cost of handling and treating the waste not covered by existing taxes or sewer charges. Section 5. Grease, oil, such as from restaurants, and sand interceptors shall be provided by any facility when, in the opinion of the city, they are necessary for the proper handling of liquid wastes containing these or other components in excessive amounts, or any flammable wastes, sand, or other harmful ingredients. All interceptors shall be of a type and capacity approved by the appropriate governmental agency and the city and shall be located as to be readily and easily accessible for cleaning and inspection. It shall be the responsibility of the facility owner to install these interceptors. Section 6. Where preliminary treatment or flow equalizing facilities are provided for any waters or wastes, they shall be maintained continuously in satisfactory and effective operation at the owner's expense. Article 13. Responsibility for damage. Section 1. No unauthorized person shall maliciously, willfully, or negligently break, damage, destroy, uncover, deface, or tamper with any structure appurtenance, or equipment which is part of the public sewage works. Any person violating this provision shall be subject to immediate arrest under charge of disorderly conduct or criminal mischief. Section 2. At all times all building sewer lines to any interceptor tank, and applicable pump, the maintenance of those lines belongs to the private property owner and are the owner's responsibility for maintenance and upkeep. Where pumping from an interceptor tank is allowed, step, the owner shall be responsible for the pump installation, electrical panel, wiring, and all maintenance from the residence or business to the interceptor tank and shall pay all associated power costs. Pumping of interceptor tank, when the city determines necessary, is the responsibility of the city. Section 3. If any damage to the interceptor tank, public treatment works or connecting lines is the result of a negligent or intentional act of any individual, that individual shall be responsible for the cost of any and all repairs to the lines. If an agreement for payment is not reached between the city and the parties causing the damage shall also be responsible for any reasonable attorney's fees incurred by the city regarding this matter in any court of appeal. Article 14. Powers and authority of inspectors. Section 1. The city and other duly authorized employees of the city bearing proper credentials and identification shall be permitted to enter all properties for the purposes of inspection, observation, measurements, sampling, and testing in accordance with the provisions of this ordinance. Section 2. The city and other duly authorized employees of the city bearing proper credentials and identification shall be permitted to enter all private properties through which the city holds a duly negotiated easement for the purposes of, but not limited to, inspection, observation, measurement, sampling, repair and maintenance of any portion of the sewage works lying within said easement. All entry and subsequent work, if any, on said easement, shall be done in full accordance with the terms of the duly negotiated easement pertaining to the private property involved. Article 15. Penalties. Section 1. Any person found to be violating any provision of this ordinance shall be served by the city with written notice stating the nature of the violation and providing a reasonable time limit for the satisfactory correction thereof. The offender shall, within the period of time stated in such notice, permanently cease all violations. Section 2. Violation of any of the provisions of this ordinance, which in the opinion of the city, shall in any way pose a danger or threat to any inhabitant of the city of Sumter or may harm any part of the sewer system shall be cause for the city to disconnect water use and/or enter onto the violator's property and break and plug the connection to the community sewer system, at property owner's expense, until such time as the cause of damage to the community sewer system and all fees have been paid. Section 3. Any person who continues a violation beyond the time limit provided for in Article 14, Section 1, shall be guilty of a misdemeanor, and on conviction thereof shall be fined in the amount not exceeding $500 for each violation. Section 4. Any person violating any of the provisions of this ordinance shall become liable to the city for any expense, loss, or damage occasioned to the city by reason of such violation. Section 5. Each day any provisions are violated, or continues to be violated after notice is given, is a separate violation. Successive notices are not required for successive violations. Article 16 Construction. Section 1. Sewer grades. All sewers shall be laid in accordance with current plumbing code. Section 2. Grade release. If the grade of the sewer does not meet current plumbing code, the property owner shall sign and acknowledge a grade release in a form approved by the city, the effect of which shall be to release the city from all future claims for damages due to the installation of said sewer. If there is doubt about the grade, a grade release shall be procured before the pipe is laid. If upon inspection, the grade is inadequate, the grade release shall be filed in the office of the recorder before any backfilling takes place. Section 3. Construction specifications. All materials, pipe, and fittings used in the construction of effluent sewer lines on private property must meet current plumbing codes. Section 4. Interceptor tanks shall be approved by the city and must meet Department of Environmental Quality guidelines. Section 5. Minimum interceptor tank sizes shall be 1,000 gallons per residence. Minimum interceptor tank size for commercial or multi-residence shall be in accordance with requirements set forth by the Department of Environmental Quality. Article 17. Capping abandoned service laterals. Section 1. All building laterals to be abandoned shall be capped with a watertight permanent plug at the property line in accordance with the city's standards and inspected by the city prior to closure. Section 2. It is the property owner's responsibility to ensure that no other structure is connected to the service lateral being abandoned. If the service lateral to be abandoned is serving more than one structure, a new connection to the city system for the structure, S, still using the system must be provided for the structure, S. Article 18. Repeater, interpretations, severability, and corrections. Section 1. Repeater. City Ordinance #2020-2 and all amendments thereto are hereby repealed in their entireties, and the provisions of any other prior ordinance of the City of Sumter that may be in conflict with any of the provisions of this ordinance are hereby repealed and superseded. Section 2. Interpretations. All pronouns contained in this ordinance and any variations thereof will be deemed to refer to the masculine, feminine, or neutral, singular or plural, as the identity of the parties may require. The singular includes the plural and the plural includes the singular. The word or is not exclusive. The words include, includes, and including are not limiting. Any reference to a particular law, statute, rule, regulation, code, or ordinance includes the law, statute, rule, regulation, code, or ordinance as now in force and hereafter amended. Section 3. Severability. If any section, subsection, sentence, clause, and / or portion of this ordinance is for any reason held invalid, unenforceable, and / or unconstitutional, such invalid, unenforceable, and / or unconstitutional section, subsection, sentence, clause, and / or portion will, A, yield to a construction permitting enforcement to the maximum extent permitted by applicable law, and B, not affect the validity, enforceability, and / or constitutionality of the remaining portion of this ordinance. Section 4. Corrections. This ordinance may be corrected by order of the City Council to cure editorial and / or clerical errors. Nothing in this ordinance affects the validity of any criminal or civil enforcement actions commenced prior to the adoption of this ordinance. All city ordinances existing at the time such actions were filed will remain valid and in full force and effect for purposes of those actions.
Page 3, section 6. Remove the period after section 2 at the end of the sentence.
Where?
At the end of the paragraph, I'm sorry. At the
Page?
very end, it says section 2. Page 3,
Page 3, section 2,
section 6,
section
top one.
6.
After section 2, there's a period, and then it just goes to this article, so we just gotta get rid of that.
John has a question.
Referring to the 180 days, can we read that where you can actually hear it? It's not going so fast. Or somebody read it to me. If you don't connect with that in 180 days, you forfeit what you paid.
And you have to reapply and repay the deposit.
If that's the case, I want my money back. I didn't have to pay, I didn't sign up for service. The ordeal down there was not my doing, it was the city's. I just got the railroad there so you wouldn't get sued. So if that's the case, I need my money refunded because I'm not even close to, the plumbers just left yesterday. There's no tanks, there's nothing to hook to. And I'll just reapply when I'm actually ready to hook up. That was called a locate call then. You couldn't find your sewer line. First you said it wasn't on our property, then you marked it 30 feet away. Then we dug up the railroad tracks to find it. And you had the materials available so you could extend it out where it's accessible. We didn't have to dig up the tracks again, which I finished repairing today by myself.
That's section 4, sub E of Article 7. Sub E, it's on page 5, I believe.
So you, John, you want this read to you again, because this particular paragraph in no way deters from the fact we're gonna pass the ordinance or not pass the ordinance, but you just wanna hear that.
I don't care about, I'm just wondering if I'm gonna get screwed out of 3,500, if that's the next battle we have. Because it's right here, right now, actually. I wasn't able to respond at the last meeting. It was adjourned abruptly and everybody left.
Is that during your 3-minute public comment?
I never got a comment. Charlie commented the entire 6 or 7 minutes.
An application for a new service or restoration service shall be invalid after a period of 180 days from the date of approval by the city council or within 30 days of the completion of installation, whichever period is shorter unless the on-premises service connection is completed. The service is activated by the applicant. If such application is rendered invalid on this basis, connection fee shall be non-refundable, and a new application and fee will be required. If service is still desired by the applicant, refund of a connection fee shall only be refundable if requested within 30 days of the application and prior to the installation of the main line extension. So
This was in the original 2021-2 sewer ordinance that has already been passed in
Did he make an application?
that section was.
You did an application.
I guess my
Where they gave me an application at the window when I was paying the bill and I just,
Last month, our last meeting, right?
Huh?
At the last meeting?
yes, you were in the office, Linda.
Yeah, I couldn't remember
Yeah.
if that was the application we were talking about. Yeah, he did submit an application. Yeah, not because we chose to, we had to. But that money was charged to the whole residential account, which ate up his balance because he pays for the entire year ahead. He was left with a balance of $16.50 if there's no way that could have been. So in order to get Renee to open a second account, she insisted he fill out the paperwork application for the paperwork. That's the only way it could be done. And under duress, reading that for the first time, we filled it out, gave it to her, paid the money, and got an account opened for out there. That was not how we chose to do it.
We weren't ready. We just wanted you to locate your sewer line so we could know where we're going.
But you guys sat through this ordinance the first time we passed it.
Yes, Marcia, but we did not, we were forced to pay it
We
in
didn't
here,
set
and
to-
you questioned my ability or my willingness to pay my bills.
We didn't.
No.
Which I found that very, we could listen to the tape. You
John,
said, "Is he
I
trying to get out of this?"
Point of order.
I asked if
Okay.
you had paid. I didn't
No, you didn't.
Mark.
insinuate anything.
Point of order, okay?
Is he trying to get out of paying his bills?
Point of
I did
order.
not say
Point
that,
of
John.
order, Marcia.
We did not set to the reading.
Point of order, Rebecca. Okay. I'm not sure how this addresses, because I'm a builder, okay? I face the same thing that you guys are with this. When you're building a residence, it can take you more than 180 days. You need it installed many times before you do construction. I'm not comfortable with this clause as a builder.
And the plain and inescapable fact of the matter is he shouldn't have to pay it twice.
Oh, no, absolutely. So, yeah.
This could be a good.
Thoughts on the other side of this? Have you seen an application here where it would?
Well, the thing is though, is once again, they can go either direction. Because you can look at it from John's point, where, because of what this says, unless you're gonna change that clause, right? So hypothetically, if we gave John back his money, he comes in next year and says, okay, I'm ready to tie in. He's already tied in, but if council decides to raise the water and sewer rate, and it ain't $3,500 no more, he gets to pay the new one.
Wait, he isn't tied in already. He is not.
No.
Okay, you just said he was, but he's not. Let's make sure that's straight.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. This, in regards to the applications that you guys are knowing about building, do we just need to change this verbiage and not put a shorter limit on it?
I guess my question is why would there be a limit on it?
Well, I don't know, that's why I'm asking it, because this came from the old ordinance.
Yeah, because I mean, if somebody, well, we do have an example here, okay? There was talk a year ago that rates were gonna go up. People were asking me, do I need to go down and pay now, even though I'm not gonna build, so I can get in on the cheaper rate? In fact, you know, me knowing this was coming and knowing I'm gonna, you know, build over here on my lot, I thought, golly, I know it's coming, I better do my thing. Yeah, but I can't do that, you know, I'm the mayor, okay? I haven't signed on, so I can't do that. So, there's that application, you know, they get it in even though they're not planning on building for 10 years until they retire. There's nothing wrong with doing that, as far as I'm concerned, but, you know, maybe that's not what city policy wants to be, but I just don't see
What would be the
how this
reason?
would apply to somebody that's going to build. You know, John's gonna be working on this thing through the winter, and
Right.
need to be hooked up, you know, for,
What was the reason for the old, what were their reasons
I don't
for this paragraph?
no, if,
It was just there.
Well, the thing is,
This
though,
one
the
too.
paragraph would be where somebody came and paid, regardless if we hooked them up or not. That if they're, therefore you're not getting the service. So if it's out several years, then what the cost of fee is gonna be to put it in. We have the same situation with the water right now.
Can I offer a solution?
just a sec, Chuck.
Yes,
I mean, so we have the same situation that's coming forth with water.
That would be a well copy.
Yeah, same application.
But like I said, with the sewer ordeal, it's not near as bad as the water ordeal. But the water don't have this. They don't have that law.
let's see what Martin's
John, what
solution.
I have,
Wait, Martin has the.
Why don't we just have it say, accepting applications pending, because apparently John, city says it's an application, he has an application. Except for pending applications, a new service for installation shall be valid after a period of 180 days. So that means if someone applies after this ordinance goes into effect, your 180 days apply. Anybody that's applied now, it doesn't apply.
Well, that's, yeah, well, except this was in the old ordinance.
It's in the one we
I
just.
know, but the old ordinance goes away. This supplants it.
But do we even need that 180 days? I'm.
Maybe we don't.
That's my question.
Why do, I
You
mean,
know, or you could classify it as except in cases of future, well,
make it.
new construction,
Issues
but
of new service.
everything would be new construction if you're gonna put it in a new service, so. John, yeah.
so you're getting kind of off track here. I never applied. I called it a locate. You couldn't find your line. That was your locate, your fishing expedition. You weren't here, so that was what it was, a fishing expedition. I haven't even talked to the DEQ yet. then we're not gonna have tanks till next year. And there will be 3. But, I mean, that's the standard. It's not in Sumter, but that's the standard for Oregon, RV parks. But I haven't even talked to DEQ. There's no way this is gonna happen until next year, after 60 months from here, and I'm not going to pay you twice.
No, right,
So,
right. I don't think.
I mean, a building permit is good for 365 days.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's good you brought it up, because you read it, you think, okay, it all sounds good, it's all legal and everything, but is it practical? It's not practical. So, do we even need that clause?
That's what I was.
That's
thinking.
my question.
Because actually the whole clause could go away.
Doug?
Isn't an outside observer? John obviously doesn't want to get double dipped. It sounds like the council and the mayor doesn't want citizens of the town to get double dipped. I'm sitting here, I don't like what I was hearing, but John's getting set up to get double dipped. Since everybody's in agreement, why don't we just make note of it, and between now and the next meeting, people decide how they want the verbiage to change. That way, we're not trying to sit here and put out a fire right on the spot when people have time to think about
365 days is what, for a building permit for the county?
But you can get extensions.
You can get extensions. And we could do that too.
But if they're gonna get extensions, then you have to let them know where.
Why not just take out everything except the last sentence?
Well, that would make sense. Make an application and it's only refundable. if requested in 30 days.
It'd be more than that. I think,
Okay.
Martin.
Make it 180,
Yeah.
make it
well,
360.
You could do an application for a new service restoration shall be invalid after a period of 180 days. The date of approval of the council.
Why don't you refund their money after 180 days and make them start over then?
I still, as a builder, I would never agree to 180 days. Just wouldn't do it.
So what is the, so if maybe John comes in and applies, gives his money, that locks him into a price, that locks him, so why do we even give him a time frame? I mean, once he's done his application for his line, if he does it next year or 2 years from now, does it make a difference?
That was my original
Well,
question.
yeah, and then if
See,
he pays it now and the rates go up, he's locked into whatever's existing now. I don't know, I'm just asking, you guys.
Well, see, the thing is, though, I think Martin's right though, because in other words, if John decided to change his mind within 30 days of the application and requested to get his money back,
You can do that.
I would think so.
Sure.
Well, why not just, if John says, hey, give me my money back, and I'll reapply, and if the rates go up, he's stuck with it.
Okay, that's fine, so.
Is that okay?
Yeah, whatever.
But the thing is, though, is this clause still needs to be fixed.
This is gonna come up, okay? Instead of building a tiny house over here, let's say I'm building a house like mine, and I'm the only guy working. That's gonna take me 16, 18 months to build that house.
So we aren't putting a time limit.
But I've already put my system in because I'm,
Brought it to the problem.
I've got a backfill, I've gotta do my yard work, I've gotta do all that.
We're just saying, you make your application and the refund of the connection fee will be refundable if requested within 30 days or whatever time frame is out there. We're just making the clause when you can get your money refunded, right, Martin?
I think we
Yeah,
could-
take out for all the rest of it except that.
Yeah, we can leave that in there and take out that, the period, it's invalid or whatever. If you change your mind or you haven't done the work, you get your money back,
Read it again.
So actually, it should say, an application for new service or restoration of service shall be refundable within the fee, within that period of time.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
So take out everything from invalid way down to where it says refund. And then refund should be refundable. Does that sound
See how that reads.
How about just an application for a new service or restoration of service shall be refundable within 30 days of the application and prior to the installation of the main line
There we
extension.
go. That's perfect. That's perfect.
I have another change too.
Where are we at?
Page 5,
Okay.
section 2 at the bottom, it says vacant any premises applied to this water service, it should be sewer service, right?
Yep.
I thought we caught them off.
And then, page 10, section 1. Current plumbing code. CURRENT.
Page 10.
Oh,
Section 1 should be current, and the same way as section 2, current needs to be changed.
What article?
You're on page 10.
I'm talking about the berry.
Yeah, under sewer grades, we don't want to talk about the berry, we want to talk about.
Current plumbing and codes should be plural.
Codes, okay. And then current plumbing codes, plural.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The last ordinance, and I don't have it in front of me, but my recollection is at one meeting, you read the whole blessed thing, and then you read it again by title only, and then it takes yet another meeting to read it by title only before it becomes an effective ordinance, 30 days after that. Now, maybe I'm wrong on that, but these two are different. The one we're looking at now, the sewer ordinance, contemplates reading it again.
Right.
And the first one we did not. So our first ordinance isn't in effect 30 days from today, the water one. We gotta read it one more time, I think.
Yes, we talked to LOC about that, and they said if there's, everybody's in agreement on the full reading, then you can read it by title
That's
only,
right.
and then you're done.
I don't think that's what our charter says, in our charter rules. Maybe we have one.
They have a
What does it say?
You can interpret it.
Okay, I will. Well, okay, except as provided in the second and third sections, normally it would be read fully and distinctly in open council meeting on 2 different days, okay, unless it's this other one. So the other one says, okay, it can be done in one meeting, but it can't.
Under what circumstances?
If we unanimously agree to do the second one by title only.
I thought that's the way it explained.
Yeah.
We sent them a copy of the charter, so.
Yeah, I was thinking,
So we're okay.
City of Acres is different, so this one needs to be changed so we don't have to read it again.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So,
It says read for the second time by title only.
We have to change this word.
so Martin, by changing that, number 5, by eliminating those sentences, do we have to read the whole thing again, or just that section?
no, I think just that section, because we've read the whole thing and we have the right to amend it and correct it anyway.
Right. I thought if we did that, then we had to
No,
go through the.
no, I can't stay awake that long.
So, we'll change it again.
Well, if we can just read section E,
Just
I mean,
read
E of section 4.
That's what we can do it, let's do it, get it done.
Yeah, we just read that section.
All right. So I'll go ahead and read it. It's E of section 4 on page 5. Section 4 is deposit and establishment of credit at the time of application for services made. The applicant shall establish their credit with the city. Section E, an application for a new service or restoration of service shall be refundable if requested within 30 days of application and prior to installation of the main line extension.
You should have the word, an application and fee for a new service. You don't have fee.
An application and fee.
Uh,
An application and fee for a new service.
no, yeah, I thought that was at the top. But application and fee for a new service. All right, let's read it again. E, an application and fee for a new service and restoration of service shall be refundable if requested within 30 days of application and prior to the installation of the main line extension.
Period. Hallelujah.
All right. So, if we're all in agreement, we will just read only.
I make a motion to accept the ordinance number 2021-2. Sewer ordinance.
You want to make a motion to read it by title only?
This is to accept this.
We have to read it by title.
To read by title only then,
As it's amended.
as it's amended.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. All right. I'll read it by title. City of Sumter ordinance number 2021-2. Ordinance regulating the use and construction of community and on-site sewers and drains, private sewage disposal, the installation and connection of building sewers, sewer connection fees, the discharges of water and waste into the community and on-site sewer systems, providing penalties for violations thereof, repealing ordinance 2020-2 in the city of Sumter, county of Baker, state of Oregon.
I move we adopt it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously.
I have focus on it. I only get to remember.
Is it gonna?
So what are we doing, on like?
I guess it's up to you, John, if you come in and request a refund, we'll give it to you. That's what we just voted on.
George, you're not penalized if you let it sit.
Well,
Either way.
is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll just leave it set, but I'm not gonna have a sewer
No,
thing until
there's no
next,
time limit.
next spring.
Yes, there's no time.
Okay, so, we just looked at the fee schedule and looking over that stuff, and I happened to notice that you have vacation fees on the fee schedule. And maybe we need to add Article 10 fees, because anything that goes up for conditional use requires Article 10. Article 10 is the public hearing of the letters, and everybody comes in and votes on it, and then it gets recorded. So I think if you would consider that when you're working, Linda and Marcia, on the residential limited RVs being used, whether they can be there year-round if they're not occupied, because I think the RL says they can't be occupied year-round, but it doesn't mean the camper can't be parked there year-round. And that it also goes for our commercial residential zone, which this last weekend was pretty packed with RVs. And if you accept a fee and store an RV on your lot, you are a RV, and that's a conditional use permit, an RV park. That needs to be looked at. Once that they're established, and it's pretty easy to get a conditional use. People go through the hearing, and this town's pretty forgiving, stuff passes. Once you establish that conditional use, that's $285. For 16 properties down here, that could be $3,000, $4,000. For the city, you don't have to do anything except renew their permit. And initially, that would be $16,000 of revenue on the books, turning over those hearings. It's a pretty easy source of income for the city.
All right.
Yeah, where you talk to them.
I got it.
Yeah, Martin.
I was asked to talk to Holly about planning. I did. Holly's real interested in helping us. There is a grant, Grant Young grant, and I don't know if you've got the application form for it, Renee?
$1,000?
Yeah.
It's already done.
Oh, okay, good, thanks. But they'd be willing to help us rewrite our ordinances. They have expertise in that. We don't. And they would like, Holly would like to meet with us. Except our meetings conflict with hers. And so I would suggest that perhaps we have a workshop with her to go over these things. She wants to know exactly what our expectations are. And the county has a very effective way of dealing with zoning issues. They would take over the planning function. But the seminal step is going to be having an ordinance that makes sense. And so I would suggest we gather up all the ordinances we have, and I have no idea
I
how
already
many.
sent them to her.
She has.
All of them? Okay, so we ought to be able to, the sections that are in conflict, we ought to be able to read them all together, and then she can get an idea of what we need, because we are, at least in my view, woefully inadequate on the notice and procedural provisions. And we can really streamline this thing.
It would be nice.
Yeah, and I read the Baker County or Baker City one. They pay her $50,000, but they have about 7 or 8 times the number of applications we do. But she'd like to meet with us.
I have a copy of that.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's.
I was working on this before I went to Colorado last year, and then we haven't.
Well, Holly would like to do it and like to be involved, and they know what they're doing. I've worked with Holly for years and years and years in that planning department, and they are good to work with.
So did she give you a time frame or what would work for her as far as if we had a workshop?
Well, Tuesdays
are bad days, right?
Tuesday's a bad day because that's her planning commission, and the city's planning commission, I think, is also that day. So if we had it like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, she could do that.
So just contact her and kind of give us a few days so we can all
Yeah.
get our schedule.
So do you guys want to give me a few days at work that I can offer her, so then I don't?
We could do that either way, yeah. Either way.
I'm flexible.
I can't do anything until November.
It's just a workshop.
I can't. I'm working, so I can't be there during the day. I do it at night.
Well, I think afternoon works better for her. 'Cause her meetings are mostly at night, and she's got young kids,
Yeah.
so she wants to be at home at night if she can.
Yeah, I can't do anything for 2 weeks.
Yes. Then we can set up and then we'll have to make good notes or we can listen to what you listen
I
to.
can listen to
before.
it, sure,
You can listen
yeah.
to the
Okay.
words. I think the way.
We've talked, Holly and I have talked about this so much that.
I mean, I'm gonna be gone the rest of this week, so.
Well, you're gone the rest of the week.
Oh,
What, we can set up next week? Wednesday or Thursday? Tomorrow's Wednesday. I think that's pretty short for her.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's give her
just give
a
her
week,
one. Yeah.
because she's got some good ideas. And I can just explain to you right now, one of the basic things is they have class, I believe it's 1, 2, and 3, maybe 4 zoning applications.
Okay.
1 and 2 is basically, you come in, you fill out the paperwork, if it fits in the zone, you get your permit right there. You don't have to come to the council. 2 is that way too. And it isn't until you get to 3 that it involves some hearing by the council. And we could probably get them to write the staff report for us and to make specific findings which are required by law, which we don't do. You know, it's a win-win situation for us.
Well, yeah, because, you know, I don't understand all this building stuff, so, and the next group that comes through, I mean, it's just, it's such a learning curve on the.
Right, and they have staff there to do it, so whenever you want to do it.
That's good. I'm flexible.
Look at Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Next week?
Well, no, just see what her schedule, you know, say what Wednesday and Thursday works for you, her, give us a couple days, and then Renee can see what our schedules are. I mean, kind of be on her
Okay,
schedule.
can we do that?
Wednesday and Thursdays in the afternoon, the next couple of weeks, and see what works.
And then, okay, the other thing is I talked to Charlie's friend at John Deere, and I talked to Kat. And it sounds like we have some money now. John Deere, he discussed about a grader that we could lease for like over 5 years. It has an internal interest rate of 4% for 5 years. And it's 3% for 3 years. And on this machine, it's about 10 years old. It's got about 4,000 or 5,000 hours, which isn't much. Has a wing, and it's 6-wheel drive. It sounds like it would fit us perfectly, and we would pay the rent. All it would cost us to get into is $16,000. So we'd say $3,000 we want to spend on having somebody look at the brakes, and Lord knows how much else we'd spend to get that fixed, and then the radiator. And if we can't do it the next year, and we don't budget for it, they come pick it up. If we do the whole 5 years, at the end of it, we pay $1 and we own it. Cat, the only thing they had right now was one for, it was $163,000, I believe, which, and it's a 2014, and that's probably out of our league. So,
The $16,000 to get into it, Martin, is that's what it'll cost us each year?
yeah, $16,000 a year we pay upfront each year. At the end of the, or beginning of the 6th year, we pay $1, we own it. And the people at CAT, he didn't even have, he's got to go to another outfit to get the lease rates and all that. And it just sounds like, you know, that machine is way more than we need or can afford. Yeah, the affordance is the big thing. So, 4% isn't bad. It's not like in the old days when they charged you 20% on the lease on the internal rate of return. So,
And he has it available.
$80,001 if we keep it for 5 years,
Plus interest.
plus the interest.
well, no, that's the interest built in.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Oh, you said internal.
yeah, it's an internal rate of return, so 16,000 gets it for you.
What year is it?
He said it was like 10 years old, and when I was in such a rush because I got home late, I couldn't, I forgot to bring the paper. I had it all written on.
Still newer than ours.
Sound down.
There's harvester on buggies.
Anyway, that's my report.
All right.
So
So do
are we supposed to get back to him, or do we get back to you, or how?
Well, we'll get back to him.
Okay.
Can you get that information to Renee? She can
Yeah,
print it out and
sure.
get it to us.
Sure.
Well, I need to, once again, I need to know where we're going. We're gonna put this other one on hold again? What do you want to do? Because they've already been here once.
How much have they spent?
What have they done?
They came in and they assessed the situation and we tried to pull it apart and he's got to go back and get a puller and he's also getting a footboard machine. He found where we can get parts and he found a place where he can get the repair manual. But right now, we don't have a whole lot of money in it. So all we gotta do is just put the tire back on it and pull it out of the shop and put it with the other one.
Charlie, is it gonna take this kind of money each year to keep it running?
It's old enough to where it's got issues. And that's all I can say, because I'm not a little man that can crawl inside and look at the pistons and everything else and know that it's going to run forever. Because it could go out here and blow up 15 minutes after.
And radiators.
Oh, I know, I can always.
It's a 1942.
Yeah,
We're not
every year
looking
I can
at
tell where they pumps, I just follow the hydraulic fluid drips.
We're not looking at a long-term dependency, we just, because money has been so tight, we were looking at a 12-month dependency to give us more breathing room. So,
But like I said, we're at a council meeting right now, so
Hold off until you look at that one.
I have a
I would say
question.
hold off.
Is there any salvation companies out there that would buy something like that off of us?
Yeah.
Scrap iron.
and we got two of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that money
Because-
goes towards our.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So you got the 3,000, somebody quoted 5,000 for those two old beaters.
I think it was Noodle.
Okay, so there's, you know,
Scrap.
there's $8,000, we're halfway there.
Yeah. I agree with Martin, because this is a different loader than the one, or I mean, a different grader than the one that Patrick was telling me about.
Travis has nothing, so he's gonna check with Noodle again.
And yeah, Noodle's got what he thinks is coming on, but we, you know, that's
But like I
what
said,
we find.
I think, you know, if we get rid of these two this year and scrap them out and have another one sitting for 16.
When did they?
Is that available?
Back?
We can come, we can get
When
it.
did he think he was gonna get
He
that?
didn't
Yeah,
say.
he thought we could.
So that's what I'm saying is that the big thing is though, is with used equipment, it don't hang out very long.
Well,
So if Patrick's got one, it's.
Well, I think we need the details, on paper. And if we have to call a special meeting to deal with this in a couple of days, then we do it.
I agree.
Okay,
And before we throw any more money in
I'll call-
the old beater.
I'll call John Deere in the morning and tell him to put everything on hold. Got that little bill coming, because they made a service call up here and we pulled it apart. If that's what, I just need to know, because I don't need them calling me saying, yeah, we're coming up there.
put it on hold.
Okay,
Yeah, I think better than that.
And then follow up on the rest of this week.
Yeah,
Have a special session. I can-
well, the thing is,
I can
though,
call in.
well, if Martin, he's the one that's upholding this grader, so if Martin finished that, then we can do what we gotta do, because we should be able to get the grader up here probably by the middle of November anyways. If he's got
Where is it at?
It's in, Boise, I believe.
Yeah.
So it may cost us a little to get it here unless you want to road it.
Normally Patrick's pretty good about getting our machines up here for minimum.
Normally I would, Martin, but I'm too busy right
Me too.
All right, come go.
now. All right,
It's a road grader, and go about this amount.
council.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Council session is closed at 6:33. Thanks for your input, guys. All right.
Really,
Catch up.
getting some stuff done. So now like, God, dang, I can't really stand up.
Okay, I need these signed.
I know you agree.
Where's the